The Browns, they're putrid. They're the worst team in the NFL.
The season, the 2024 season is over.
Lamar Jackson can't win the playoffs. He'll win a third MVP, though, so that's great. Drew Sample is the most important piece of the Bengals offense next year.
Go Joe Burrow. He deserves to be MVP. I wish he was the Browns quarterback. Kind of mean that.
If you're looking for the most reactionary, silly, and unserious show on the internet, then you're home. Live from Hamilton, Ohio, it's Off the Bench by Chatterbox Sports on 1410 ESPN Radio.
Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing with you here as we are off and rolling. And I tell you what, I've been super jacked for today's show. And it's not like I'm never excited for shows, but there was a certain point last night where I'm like, man, oh man, I cannot wait to get in studio. I cannot wait to get with the guys. I cannot wait to talk about the Cincinnati Reds in October. And no, not for what we would hopefully be talking about a Reds team in October for. It has nothing to do with the playoffs. Hopefully it has to do with future playoffs. But somehow, some way, the Cincinnati Reds did pull off the unthinkable. Somehow, some way, they did something that in my head, I was like, hey, can they do this? Are they capable of doing this? Can they actually go and get the best available option at any hole that they're trying to fill when it comes to this roster? Can they go out and get the best player at a certain position? Can they go get the best pitcher that's available? Can they go get the best bench coach that's available? Can they get the best manager that's available? Somehow, some way, they did it. The Cincinnati Reds landed Terry Francona. And we have talked about this managerial search, well, I mean, at least for 11 days, because that's how long the position was open. But the big thing I had right off the bat when they fired David Bell was I had a problem with the timing. The timing. 5 games left in the regular season. Like, what's your message? What are you trying to pull? Like, what do you feel hard-ass because all of a sudden you just decided to, bring the hammer down on David Bell for not following through on getting this team where it needed to go? It didn't make any sense. Marty Brenneman came on the show with us last Friday, said the same thing. He had no clue why in the world would you move on from David Bell 5 games, with 5 games left in the regular season, almost seemed disrespectful. But you know what? It wasn't disrespectful. It wasn't just for no reason. It wasn't just to make a point. It was because they had business to take care of. The Reds were already, although 5 games left in the regular season, the Reds were taking care of business for 2025. They were already looking ahead. You still have games left. Yes, you don't want to quit on the season, but the bottom line is when you had a chance to make a championship-level move, the Reds decided with 5 games left to move on from David Bell and start their coaching and the managerial search. And they didn't just get a good coach or a good manager. They went out and got the manager. They went out and got the guy that I don't think a lot of people, including most Reds fans, thought they had a chance to get. Gentlemen, good morning. We're off and rolling. I can't believe on a Friday as we head into a desperation weekend for the Bengals. NFL has full, college football, playoff baseball, everything that there is to talk about. The Cincinnati Reds again have taken control of the show, and I have to tell you, I have no problem with it. Terry Francona, the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. It just sounds wild.
A 0.00% chance is what I thought this would happen. I was so down on the Reds, and I think a lot of Reds fans felt this coming off this terrible season. So much expectation, so much hope, and it all gets just crushed. And then you find out last night that Terry Francona, a World Series champion, is coming to manage your team. And I think that sparked a little bit of life back into this fan base. I think I was so down, and yesterday I think I was texting legitimately seconds before the news broke. I was in a group chat with the guys here, and I was saying one day I'll experience joy because I just watched the Mets hit a go-ahead home run against the Brewers to advance in the postseason, and it was awesome. And I sat there and I was like, you know what, maybe one day I'll experience this. One day I'll get to smile. And last night was the first time I've smiled about this Reds season in a long time. I know the season's over, but I'm going to count it as part of the season. I think Jacob's counting it as a playoff win, playoff win.
That's right. Not a series.
I agree with that.
But one playoff win.
I agree with that, and I know my take, so I would be a hypocrite if I didn't say that I've been saying that managers don't matter for the better part of a year.
Well, I have a spin zone that'll save us here.
Okay, do you have a spin zone for me? Okay.
Yeah, no, because I was on the same side as you. We've said the whole time that it's not David Bell's fault because
We don't think that the manager has as much control as the players or the ownership or a long list of other things. But I think there's outlier managers that can have an influence. And that's like you saw with Bruce Bochy when he took over with the Rangers. Obviously, they put a lot of money in that middle infield, but he boosted that team considerably. I think Terry Francona is one of those outliers, and we didn't think the Reds would go there. So we're vindicated because the manager the Reds normally hire wouldn't have made a difference. But this
Correct.
isn't a Reds move, so we're fine.
I agree 100%. It's just funny. It's just funny in baseball. You go from so low to so high in a matter of seconds, and this is one of those moments. This is one. I know it's a manager move after a failed season, but it felt like a move that the Reds are trying to win. It felt like a winning move to me, and I haven't felt that in quite some time. Yeah, you signed Candelario, and it's like, okay, you get a little bit of juice there. You sign Nick Martinez, okay, you did all right. I think what you're going to see this offseason is a Reds team, I don't want to use the word desperate to win, but I think they're hungry to win. I think the organization it realized what happened this season. I think they're not happy with how it turned out, obviously, firing David Bell and going a new direction with Terry Francona. But I think it's their move to show that they care, that they're still there. Yeah. They're showing effort right now, and I give them a lot of props for that. I bash this organization every time they lose because it's what I do. It's just how I fan. I'm a negative fan. I'm a negative person. Everybody knows that. But this is a positive move, and I can't be negative about it. To have Terry Francona manage the Reds is something that I never thought would be possible. I might buy a Francona jersey.
I already have.
You already have?
Yeah, number 10. I ordered it off the Russian website last night, and it'll be here in probably a month or two.
I just felt that this was something where I don't know if it was Nick Kroll, I don't know if it was the Castellinis, I don't know who was responsible for making this decision, but they nailed it. They could have gone Skip Schumacher, and you would have had half the fan base hate it, half the fan base, it's fine. You could have gone David Ross, half the fan base loves it, half the fan base, oh, it's fine. And there was about 5 other names that it would have been the same thing. Half the fan base hated it, half the fan base would have gone, oh, yeah, it's fine. There was one option on the table. There was one option where everybody universally loved that option, and they picked that option. I didn't think they had that in them. Good on the Cincinnati Reds organization. I think it brings new life into this fan base heading into next year after I thought we were at an all-time low right now. So good for everybody involved. I'm very, very happy to be a Reds fan.
Yeah, at the beginning of this season, beginning of last season, all I said is I want a reason to wear my Reds gear in October. And today we have a reason.
That's right.
And I'm taking this as a victory lap. I see people in the chat, you can't backtrack now. You said managers don't matter. Why are you so happy today? Look, I changed my mind.
Yeah.
We went and hired a good manager. I changed my mind. I didn't expect the Reds to do something this cool, this eager to win. It really seems like an organizational shift. And I am a little bit worried because looking back on our conversation a few days ago, we said if they make Terry Francona the manager of this team, we think that is going to be the big move of the offseason. As soon as this signing was announced, I immediately thought, oh my gosh, they're committed to winning. They're going to go sign everyone else. And then I remembered that conversation. And it's amazing how quickly your feelings can change when something becomes a little bit more real.
So one thing people need to understand, too, is so Elliot, earlier you said you're negative. It's not that you're negative. It's just that we're conditioned to anticipate what an organization that has continued to do things a certain way, we're conditioned to think, okay, that's how we think they're going to continue to do things moving forward.
Yeah.
It's not like you're that crazy for thinking, the Reds, had they got, you're right, had they got a Skip Schumacher or a Ross or someone like that, we would have started the show, hey, Reds got Ross, hey, Reds got Schumacher, okay, cool. And off we go. But the one thing about, when we say managers don't matter anymore, it's like, it's not that they don't matter, but they just lack aura. There's no aura anymore, even in other sports, too. Like, when I grew up, I was a huge fan of the NBA. The coaches were as big as stars as the players. Your Pat Rileys, your Jerry Sloans, you know what I mean? Your Phil Jacksons. Now I don't think the coaches are stars in the NBA anymore. They lack aura. You look over on the sideline of a team like the Boston Celtics, and the coach, there's just no aura. There's no aura of any coaches. I kind of like J.J. Redick. I think he might have a little aura to him. Who knows? Same thing in baseball. When I grew up, there was just a lot of characters in baseball, leading the way. There was a lot of managers with aura. There's no managers in baseball anymore with that. Dusty Baker has it, and I think the Reds have it here with Terry Francona. That matters. That matters more than anything because, when I see Skip Schumacher in the clubhouse or in the dugout leading the way for the Reds, it's not like it doesn't strike any emotion with me. It's like, okay, well, he won manager of the year in the past. Former Red, solid guy, cool. All right, it's new face, new look, new voice, new feel. Let's see how this goes. But when I tune in to a Reds game next year, when I'm there on opening day and I look over and see Francona standing in that dugout, there's a different aura, not just with him there, but with this entire organization, with the entire team. The aura of you expect them to win. This is more than just like, I don't even care. I don't even know. It'll be a while before we even get into what type of decisions he makes in games. When he pulls guys. Obviously, I mean, you talk about the moves that he made during the World Series with the opener and all that stuff. Like those are things that every manager does, right? But there's just something that when he does it, it just seems to be pushing the right buttons at the right time and getting the most out of guys. And that's why he's won absolutely everywhere he has gone. I'm a big aura guy, and I think the Reds landed the best possible option because you could have hired anybody. We would have gone with it. We knew it was time to move on from David Bell, but they didn't just move on from David Bell. It was almost like a shift in direction of philosophy and everything else. I can't tell you how happy I am about this because this is more than just, again, a guy that's going to come in and help guys improve. There's just a different feel about the organization as a whole. You can't tune into a Reds game or talk Reds without expecting to talk about this team doing something to compete to win. Does it mean they're going to? No. But, damn it, we expect it, and this move definitely solidifies that.
100%. And just so everybody knows, the Cincinnati Reds did just confirm it is a 3-year contract through the 2027 season with a club option for 2028. So a 3-year deal with an option for a fourth.
Do we see dollars yet?
Did dollars I haven't seen that number yet. So maybe that'll happen.
What are dollars for managers in baseball today? What's a high end?
15.
That's the highest,
That's
I believe.
Are the Reds going to do that?
I don't
know
think so.
how you get him out of retirement without something close.
But there will be a press conference Monday at 10 a.m. They will discuss the hiring of Terry Francona. But yeah, I think there is something to having an old school manager in the clubhouse. I think there is something to that. You see David Bell, and this is no knock on David Bell, no knock on Skip Schumacher, David Ross, any of the new age managers. But there is something that's so nostalgic about baseball. And when I think of baseball, I think of the past. I think of the history of baseball. Maybe that's not the way to think about baseball. That's how I do it. That's how I look at it. And when I see an old-timey manager who's won World Series, who ended arguably the greatest curse in sports, the Boston Red Sox, when he brought them out of that, maybe he can bring us out of ours. I don't know. Maybe he can end ours. I saw a bunch of people tweeting, it felt like a move that, when the Cubs went out and got Joe Madden, when the Rangers went out and got Bruce Bochy. It felt like that type of move. It felt like a move that's ready to make a run at the World Series, to make a pennant run. And I believe it. I think that's an accurate description of what's happening right now. I'm very, very excited. And I know I said managers don't matter. But there was one manager that I was going to be excited about. There was only one. Literally one, and I thought there was a 0.0% chance it was ever going to happen. I did not think they had it in them to make this move, and I'm very excited.
All right, Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing with you here. This is Off the Bench. We'll continue on with our conversation about the Reds, of course, making a splash last night. We're talking Reds during the playoffs right now. They're not in the playoffs, but that's how big of a move this was. Like, they are getting talked about over the playoff games, which those games last night were fantastic, by the way. But we'll get into all of that coming up, more Off the Bench next. All right, we are back off the bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton, and of course Chatterbox Sports here on YouTube. Do us a favor, hit the like button. That really helps us grow the show. That obviously helps with the algorithm and continuing to push the show out. Obviously, Terry Francona is made. The signing of him is a huge splash in all of sports right now, and we want to definitely grow this show and definitely want to get people to hang out with us here talking about this. We'll get to some of the comments in the chat coming up here in a bit, but I tweeted this out last night too, because I was sitting back thinking, like, we had Marty on last week. We were talking about what it would mean for the Reds to get Terry Francona, and the more, hearing Marty talk about it got me even more excited about it. But I'm like, the Reds just don't operate that way. They just don't move that way. And there's and we could talk about, as frustrated as we are about this organization, like the Reds organization at times doesn't seem like it's healthy enough for a Terry Francona. Like, what about the Reds organization would be interesting enough for Terry Francona to not just come manage them, but to come out of retirement to come manage them? Now, we could talk about the Hunter Greens and the Nick Lodolos and the Ellie De La Cruzes, and Ellie De La Cruz is a generational talent, no doubt. But there are going to be other teams who may not have a generational talent, but will have way more talent that he could go for sure, be a winner there, right? Yep. There are more for sure options out there for Francona to come out of retirement, to go manage and not risk his legacy. I'm not saying that if he loses in Cincinnati, his legacy is completely shot, but that'll be the lasting memory you have him as a manager, assuming this is his final stop. He's risking a lot. So that means whatever was talked about in this interview process, he had to be 1 billion% sure that he was confident enough to come out of retirement. And I'm curious what the dollar amount is to get him to come out of retirement, but I don't think this is just a money play. I really don't. I think this guy loves baseball, and I truly believe that everything had to be just right for him to not just come out of retirement, but to take over the Reds job. He managed a Guardians or an Indians/Guardians organization that, just like Cincinnati, will not spend a lot of money. They will not spend a lot of money. The Reds will spend more money than the Guardians have, so there's that approach to it, I guess, too. But what is it about this organization that would have lured him out of retirement? Because it can't just be the players. The players are definite perk, yes. I think they are very close. I think that has something to do with it. The reason I'm excited about this, and I tweeted this out, is I think this was less the Reds interviewing him and him interviewing them. He had to just feel it, that this was the right time to come out of retirement, that this was the right situation, and that the team was not just ready for him to come out of retirement for him to take over, but what were they going to do to allow him to continue to have sustained success in Cincinnati? He's had success everywhere. He's turned things around in Boston. He turned things around in Cleveland. Cincinnati's another project. I mean, that could be the thing, too. He likes a challenge, and Cincinnati damn sure is a challenge, right? I feel like he was interviewing them. He was having to feel they were having to put on their best show for him. Yeah. They were having to say, hey, we haven't done it this way, but hey, for you, we'll do it X, Y, and Z. That's what I'm most excited about, is because I think that the Reds, by going this route, spending heavy dollars on a manager, once we see the total, we'll get that confirmed. That says to me right now that the Reds are not going to do things status quo, that they're not going to do things how they always have. This means a change is coming. You're not bringing in Francona to continue to be the cheap organization that you've been. And it's not just always about dollars, but it's about aggressiveness too. You're not bringing in Francona to not make moves in the offseason. You're not bringing in Francona to not make moves at the deadline. You're not bringing in Francona to not bolster a roster and fix deficiencies that, pop up throughout a season or exist heading into a season. That's why this hire means so much to me, is because I don't think this is just oh my God, he's going to make Ellie better. Yeah. Oh my God, he's going to make Matt McClain better. No, this is, oh my gosh, this is going to make the organization better. Yeah. He's going to hold them, that front office, accountable. We talked about it last week. I used the term managing up. Skip Schumacher was not going to manage up. He wasn't going to manage the front office. They were going to manage him. And I'm not saying Tito's running this organization, but damn it, he's going to have say. He's going to have a lot more face in the room when he's sitting down with Nick Craw and Meter and the front office of this organization. Bottom line is, that's why I'm most excited about this. We'll get to what, his philosophy on managing later. It's just what the impact of him being hired means, because as I said, they're not bringing him in. No. For status quo. They're bringing him in because, hey, this is a championship move, and now you got to follow it up with championship moves after. And now I'm intrigued. Now I'm excited. Yeah. Skip Schumacher, we're talking about it for a segment or two, and we go back to NFL and college football. We're going to be paying attention over the next couple of weeks, months, into next season, because I know we said last week, like Jacob, oh no, they're going to hire Francona and be done. But now that it's officially done, there's no way they're just not going to bolster this roster now. Yeah. I'm not saying they're spending millions and millions of dollars, but they're going to make some moves. I'm pretty excited about this for a lot of reasons.
What's the first question you're asking the Reds if you're Terry Francona, as you've said, conducting that interview with them to take the job? Are you going to go spend? That has to be the first question you're asking, because no one thinks this Reds roster is done, but we have the core to be competitive. He has to be believing right now that the Reds are going to go put other pieces in. Otherwise, he's not coming out of retirement. So that's exactly where I'm at right now. I'm incredibly optimistic, because I don't see how Terry Francona takes this job without a reassurance from the front office that they're going to go put pieces around this core that they already have.
And I don't find it to be a coincidence that the contract he signed correlates with Ellie De La Cruz's time with the Reds here, up until we see an extension there with Ellie De La Cruz. That's 4 years is about the time Ellie De La Cruz is going to be with the Reds.
That's what we call a window.
Could go longer, but he's joining this window.
Yep.
The Reds are going to try to win in this 3 to 4 year window. We do have a statement from Terry Francona. This is tweeted out by Charlie Goldsmith.
Gotcha.
Quote, I am so excited and honored to join an organization with the tradition and history of the Cincinnati Reds. I only played one season for the Reds in 1987, but in that season I learned that Cincinnati is a great baseball city. I want to thank Bob Castellini, Nick Krall, Brad Meter for giving me this opportunity to manage the Reds. I can't wait to start meeting and interacting with these good young players of ours. End of quote. But that's why. I think he saw that there was talent here. I think he saw Ellie De La Cruz. He saw the potential. The clay was there, and he's going to try to come in here and mold it. And again, I don't want to bash David Bell, but I don't think he was molding the roster. I think the players liked him. I think he was a solid manager. This is the David Bell bash fest. But hiring a guy who's had success managing, who's had great success, 2 World Series with Boston, ending the curse, getting a guy like that to shape the young guys who everybody I think on Twitter complained about for, the mistakes, the mental mistakes, the too many strikeouts, the base running errors, the errors in the field. Every silly little mistake, this is a move to negate that, or at least to try to combat it. That's what the Reds were trying to do here. They heard the complaints, they were listening, and I know we don't like to say that, we don't want our front office listening to fans. I think sometimes it's valuable. I think it's sometimes valuable to hear what other people are saying. And I think in this case, the fan base was on the right side. Every single person wanted Terry Francona, and I don't think many actually thought it was plausible. I don't think many people thought it was a realistic possibility. But good for the Reds. I'm going to keep saying that all show because it's true. I didn't think it was a move that was anywhere near possible. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Terry Francona is the manager of the Reds, and I'm very, very excited. Again,
how many
every
hours
segment
out of
I'm
the
gonna say
week do we sit here and bash Reds ownership?
A lot. I do it a lot.
It's important
Probably
to
too much.
give them credit where it's due, and this is a move that they never make before. No move like this really lines up with the Castellini's philosophy since they bought the team. So giving them massive credit for going out on a limb and bringing Terry Francona in, because that's a commitment to winning that we have not seen from them before, and it's been a long time coming.
Yeah, and it's interesting, too, because I'm looking around baseball, and I'm like, there are so many other organizations that he could go to if their managerial spot opened up and just not have to build them into a winner, but either keep winning and make them better, or just go to an organization that he is very confident they're going to give him every tool that he needs.
Yeah.
Like, at the same time, this is your chance to go to – you've done the organizations that don't spend money. Why Cincinnati now? Why not go take over an organization that will spend money and put you in a position where you can just continue that hot streak as far as that? Say what you want about Dusty Baker, but Dusty Baker was very, very good at picking his situations. Dusty, you know what I mean? Dusty Baker was very good at selecting the situations he went into, especially post-Reds. Going into Bryce Harper with Washington, obviously going to Houston and doing what he did there. Like, the guy won everywhere that he went. He won in Cincinnati with Joey Votto. He won there. Won with Barry Bonds and the Giants. Like, that's what that guy did. He won with the Cubs. Everywhere he went, they win. And it's a very similar track record here with Tito, and I'm pretty jacked about that. I know people say they don't want a former Red, but again, add another box that he checked off, right? Like, hey, you want a former Red? He checks that box off as well.
1987.
As far as
1987, he played
teammates
with
with
the
Pete
Reds.
Rose.
I think he was, teammates with Pete Rose, under Pete Rose.
Yep.
Pete Rose, I think, was the manager that year. Listen, I said, again, this is going to be a tough day for Elliot because I've been on the complete opposite side of caring about managers for a long time, and I got to walk it all the way back. So I know I'm a flip-flopper. I'll admit I'm a flip-flopper right now. I'm very sorry to everybody in the chat. I'm going to flip-flop so hard on this, it's going to be me doing spins. I'm going to keep spinning it in the air on this news. I said managers don't matter. This move matters. He cares about the city of Cincinnati. He cares about the organization. Having a guy like that come in here to help grow this young core. We talk about the young core so frequently. We talk about Ellie De La Cruz. We talk about Matt McClain, everybody, Hunter Green. There's so many talented pieces in the organization right now, and it just hasn't gelled yet. You've had the clay sitting there, and David Bell tried, and he tried to get, but he just kept messing up the clay. And I don't mean to be disrespectful. I love David Bell, kind of. But Terry Francona is going to get a hold of this clay, and he's going to mold it into the way that he sees fit. And I love that. I absolutely love it. So I'm again, good for the good on the Reds, man. I'm very, very excited.
The other talking point, too, that people keep drawing a line. A player's manager means you don't yell, you don't hold people accountable, this, that, the other. Like, that's like the mold that people keep putting David Bell in. That he's a player's manager, and he just didn't hold people accountable, and he didn't yell, and he didn't care. He did this. Francona's a player's manager. I hate that a player's manager is considered a guy that doesn't hold people accountable or a guy that doesn't, like, try to develop this, that, and the other. A player's manager can be a guy that also holds you accountable. Terry Francona is that. Like, I see people trying to follow up. If you didn't like David Bell, you're going to hate Francona because he's just as much of a player manager. That's a good thing. If the players like you, that's a good thing. But players also want to be coached. They want to be, they want to improve as well. They want to feel like there's a leader in the clubhouse. And I really don't care how Francona gets it done. If Francona is very similar to David Bell with the approach of being the player's manager, I don't care. If Tito is the guy that's going to come in and be a little bit more aggressive and be, hold guys more accountable, whatever that means. We say these things all the time, but I don't think we really know. We're all not professional athletes. We all sit here and talk about professional athletes, but we try to talk as if we're in the clubhouse and know exactly what holding these guys accountable means. We have no idea. Bottom line is, just want results. I don't care how Tito does it. I don't care if David Bell didn't hold anyone accountable and they won games. I would be the biggest David Bell fan. Just win games. And that's what he was brought here to do, as far as that's concerned. Are there any negatives with this?
Nope.
Are there
one.
any
I think
negatives with this?
I think there's a pretty clear
To be
worry,
fair,
and it's
what's-
his health.
yeah. Okay.
I mean, the last time we saw him managing a team, he missed weeks and months at a time for health scares, and he retired to worry about his health, and now he's coming back on a 4-year deal. I think that's definitely a concern, but
I don't
know
think
that
they
he'd be
hire
getting
him
back in. Right, exactly. I don't think he'd be getting back in to the sport if he didn't feel comfortable. It reminds me a lot of Urban Meyer when he left Florida and then inevitably came to Ohio State. He took some time off for health concerns, and not until the end of his tenure did we really see it start to bubble up and cause some problems. So I'm definitely not worried about the first few years for Francona, but I think as we get down the line on this contract, or maybe it gets worse in the middle or whatever it is, but definitely something to worry about a little bit, but I'm going to be optimistic as long as we can.
I don't think I think there was 2 assurances when they were talking to, and I don't know when this started. Who knows how long ago this started? These conversations with Terry Francona. The health was probably number 1. Terry, are you okay? Can you do this? Do you want to do this? And I imagine the second reassurance was from Terry's side. Do you guys want to do this? Do you guys want to spend money? Do you guys want to try to build? Do you make up on that promise? We see the screenshots of their statement all those years ago on Twitter. The promise that we're going to bring championship baseball back to Cincinnati. You see it all over Twitter. Every single post is bringing championship baseball back. And I'm sorry, but 4 playoff seasons in 20-plus years, whatever it's been, hasn't been that. They've failed on their promise. I think Terry Francona said, or at least was talking about it in these discussions, and said, do you guys want to make championship baseball in Cincinnati? Do you guys want to live up to that promise? Because I don't think he comes here, like Jacob said earlier, I don't think he's here unless there's some sort of promise that they're going to try to win.
65-year-old Terry Francona is not rebuilding.
No, there's no rebuild with Terry Francona.
He's in the Hall of Fame. What is he trying to prove? He's trying to come back and get another ring, and he thinks Cincinnati gives him an opportunity to do that. I have a hard time believing that Terry Francona couldn't basically pick where he wants to manage. I think if he called teams that have managers entrenched right now, they would fire them and hire Terry Francona in a lot of cases. I think over half the league would jump at the opportunity to have Terry Francona as their coach. And I think if he was actually a free agent manager and not retired, we would have seen a lot more teams go after him. But the Reds just pull him out of retirement, get him in. And I see a lot of people in the chat suggesting that he might have reached out to the Reds with interest in this job. And I absolutely think that could be the case.
100%.
Why wouldn't it be? And I saw Nick Kirby and Trace bring it up last night. What are the chances that the Reds had some conversations with Tito while David Bell was still the manager of the club? I would wager nearly 100%.
Cheaters.
No, listen. I'm again. You got to be faithful, but let's go find the Hall of Famer and talk to him.
That's right.
All right, off the the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, ESPN 1410 Wing AM in Dayton. More Terry Francona discussion when we come back. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett. Jacob Tissett in the producer chair again here on a Friday.
That's right.
Getting the hang of it?
I am. I think so.
Feeling confident?
I think so. No one's been muted while talking yet. Cameras are switching pretty good until just now. So, yeah, I think we're solid. It's definitely getting smoother as the days go on. So, shout out Casey for his vacation.
He has a lot of PTO days racked up. A lot of PTO days racked up. One thing you said a little bit ago about Terry Francona being able to basically – he could basically pick any job he wanted, right? I still think the Yankees, depending on what happens in the playoffs, this is what's wild. This is why we should feel really good as Reds fans, because Terry Francona, the reason I'm very confident, because there's some people that are saying, well, Justin, you don't know that changes are coming. You don't know this, but I'm going to be positive and confident in this.
Yeah.
You have to believe that there was some reassurances that would make him feel comfortable enough to come out of retirement to coach and manage the Cincinnati Reds, okay? And I say the Cincinnati Reds with that tone because the Cincinnati Reds, I say it like that based on how they've operated over the last couple of decades, really throughout the Castellini ownership run. But with this move right here, I'm looking at the New York Yankees. If they have an early exit out of the playoff, you know what I mean? They get bumped. I'm looking at them. Aaron Boone's gone.
Yeah.
Aaron Boone's gone. Even if they weren't really thinking of moving on from Aaron Boone, you think they're not sitting there looking at Tito like, hey, you want to move to New York? You want to manage the Yankees? Oh, yes. Finally. Give me some money. Absolutely. Yeah. I would love to go play fantasy baseball in New York and experience what that's like for a change. That would be really wild, too, because that would just all of a sudden bring that Yankees-Red Sox rivalry back to a heightened level as far as that goes. But just looking around baseball, there'd be plenty of opportunities for him to go and make a splash somewhere, whether it is in San Diego, whether it is, teams like that. I'm looking in the division. The Reds wouldn't even be the most interesting place to go manage in the division right now. And he picked the Cincinnati Reds. That's why I'm confident that whatever assurances were given to him, it's a organizational shift as far as how they're doing it. You brought up the 3-year window. So it is a 3-year contract. It does technically line up with
maybe four
with the Ellie run, right? And that window is going to be open with Hunter Green and Nick Lodolo and Ellie De La Cruz and these guys. My thing is this. Let me ask you guys. If in 3 years, 4 years, Tito's gone and Ellie has moved on to the Dodgers or Yankees, but there's at least a World Series appearance or a World Series,
I don't care.
and they blow this all up again.
Can you not say appearance? Just to save us.
No,
a little
I'm
bit.
trying not to sound delusional
You
to
have
the
to
point
you have to say if you can't give me an appearance.
You can't because I'll say I'll take that, but I can't say that.
You have to say the other part.
Right.
You can't say appearance. You got to say
ring.
Championship. Okay, fine. My thing is this: Cincinnati Castellinis, just go all in for 3 years.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I will take another decade of what we've experienced the last 2 decades. I will take another decade of just 90-plus losses a season as you blow it up in 3 years to start over.
Would you take all-in 3-year window over an Ellie extension?
Yes.
If it's either or.
Yes.
I think I would too.
I think we had this discussion about a month or 2 months. It was during that great summer that we had, where it was like, okay, do you want LA for 10 years to be the attraction and come to the ballpark and not have a lot of pieces around him? Or no Ellie and that money that could be used for 3 or 4 good pieces. It's kind of that right here.
I want peaks and valleys. I just want the peaks to be higher than the valleys.
Correct. I want a peak.
All I ever want is a peak.
I just want the peak. I don't want the middle part. The middle part sucks. I want the peak. I want the peak. If we get a
I'd take Twin Peaks if I had to, but one peak is okay.
Listen. We have this discussion probably 5 times a year on this show. Do you win a World Series? Does anything else matter? If the Cincinnati Reds win a World Series in the next 3 years with Ellie De La Cruz and Hunter Green and Terry Francona, nothing else matters.
Nothing matters.
Nothing else matters. That's our generational.
Yeah.
Nothing
matters.
That's our team that will. Yeah.
And it's not because I don't want more. It's because realistically, how many chances does a team like the Cincinnati Reds get to compete like the Rangers, like the Astros, like the Yankees, like the Red Sox? How many chances do we get? And in my lifetime, it's been 0. 0 chances. So to the thought of me even having one One World Series parade. Could you imagine that? Yeah. And it's after that, everything after that's like it's bonus time. It's fun. It's just fun. If you lose 10 years straight after that, I'll be okay with it. I'll be sad probably somewhere around year 4, but I'll be okay with it because they won my World Series, and that's all that matters. I want one championship in my lifetime. I'm a bigger Reds fan than I am a Bengals fan. I've always been. I love baseball. I don't think you can watch last night's Mets-Brewers game in Milwaukee and not get a little choked up when you see the edits of the Moneyball music behind it and Pete Rose going oppo to advance the New York Mets, a fan base that's arguably just as miserable as ours. And to see that happen and then immediately follow, we get a manager, it's just baseball. Baseball's the best, man. Baseball's the best. The quote in Moneyball, how can you not be romantic about baseball? It's my favorite quote I see on Twitter. I see it a lot. And I saw it about 4 million times last night, and it made me very, very happy. This is what baseball is, man. It unites cities. It unites a fan base. And this is what we get. I'm not saying I expect a World Series, but I want one. I want the chance to compete. And I think in our group chat last night, we were talking about it. Would you rather have, what happened to the Brewers last night happen to you? Or would you rather have the Reds, what happened to them this season? Would you rather get to the playoffs, have a chance, Game 3, elimination, go up in the 9th with a lead, and have your dreams just shattered in Milwaukee? Just shattered.
Or be out in like May.
So you're asking...
Or would you rather be out by, what was it, May?
May.
Would you rather be out by May or win a pennant, go to the playoffs, and then lose in the worst heartbreaking fashion I've ever seen?
If you don't win a world playoff series, you're all the same.
So you're basically asking, do you want to get the hot girl knowing you're going to get cheated on or never get the hot girl at all is basically what you're asking.
I think the hot girl would be advancing.
Oh, okay.
If we were saying losing in the second round, I think that would be the hot girl. But because that's definitely better.
All right, so you want a 7.
Yeah. The Brewers season's like a soft 7.
Okay. All right.
But I think it's a
couple
fair...
beers on a low self-esteem night. I mean, I don't know.
This comparison. We're off the rails now.
Give us a like, please.
Yeah, give a like for that insanity.
Reel us in.
But to have that ability, to have the ability to compete year round, I don't think there's a feeling like that. And I think there was seasons in the past. I think 2016, 2017, 2018. From right away, you just know it's over. And I guess that's kind of what happens when you rebuild in baseball. It's just misery a little bit when you're a small market team. But to have that wire-to-wire feeling, to have, like, I know the Guardians wasn't technically wire-to-wire this year, but that was pretty much as close as wire-to-wire as one can get. The Guardians pretty much led that division from the start to the finish, with a little bit of games in between where they weren't. That's what I want. And I think we can get that in the next 3 years, 4 years, asterisks. If we don't win it in the first 3, then the 4th we'll win it. So that's what I want. I want to see the Reds compete. That was a competitive move they made last night, hiring Terry Francona. He's got a history of winning. His managerial record speaks volumes. The Cleveland Guardians, Indians, leading them to a World Series appearance. Similarly to the Reds, Guardians don't spend money. Cleveland doesn't spend money. The Reds, not really big into spending money. So he's done it. He's had the success where the Reds are right now. He's had that. He's done it. I think there'll be a statue built of him in Cleveland. Just like I'm sure there'll be a statue, if there's not already, in Boston.
Do you put a statue of a manager that didn't win you a World Series up, though? That's not a shot at Francona.
Cleveland, you do.
They
have some bad statues.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know why you wouldn't, because I think he brought the Cleveland Guardians, Indians, whatever they were at the time, so much success. And I think for a long period of time, what was he there for, 10 years, 11 years? So, yeah,
I'm here to tell you, if he's here for 5 years and doesn't bring a World Series, I don't want to hear no statue talk. That's all. There's no disrespect to
No, I don't disagree. But
if he's here for 3 years and we win the division 3 straight times, you can build a statue.
Okay. Right next to Dusty's?
Well, sure.
A little dual statue, like...
Listen, that's a fair point. That was a fair point. You got me. Gotcha journalism over there by Justin Kinner. But
I'm sorry, you got rattled.
No, go ahead. It's okay. We'll rattle Elliot.
The only statue on this team right now is Ellie.
Right now, it's just Ellie.
And
Votto will be
build
coming.
We should just build it now.
Yeah. I'm okay with building the statue of Ellie now. If Ellie wins a World Series, oof.
And you made a good point. And what are we at time-wise? Let's step away for a few.
You can name Great American Ballpark Ellie Ballpark if they win a World Series with Ellie De La Cruz. Francona and Ellie.
That'll be weird when the Dodgers come to town. And all right, Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. Chatterbox Sports on YouTube. 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. We'll be right back. All right, and we are back. Justin Kinner, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett with you here. Again, it's just been a reactionary Friday to the news of Terry Francona being named the new manager of the Cincinnati Reds. How about that? A championship move. And I see people, the negative comments on there. Championship move. Why don't you let it play out first? No, I mean, that's silly. You know, if a program out there hires Urban Meyer to be their head coach at some point, that's a championship move because that means championship expectations are coming in. If Urban goes to Notre Dame, that's a championship move. Or they are not just expected to be good with Urban, they're expected to win a championship. This is a championship move because the Reds aren't just expected to be competitive with Terry Francona. They're expected to go win it all. They're expected to win a World Series. But we talked about this briefly in the last part of the show, and you brought up a good point, Elliot. Like, this is very rare to have the elite manager that you do with an elite player that you do. Very rarely do you get both. And the Reds, and I know people were so split on Dusty back in the day. I was a big Dusty guy. I don't know. We didn't know each other then, obviously. But,
yeah.
You know, there's sometimes where it is time to part ways with the guy. Dusty, I guess it was kind of time.
I don't think it was time to cut.
I'm still not a big fan of moving on from Dusty. But Dusty, elite manager, you had Joey Votto. Like, you were fortunate to have that. They didn't let that breathe long enough, in my opinion. You have that now with Ellie. You have it with Francona. But we don't know how much longer the Reds are going to have Ellie De La Cruz. Every time that bat touches a ball and he steals a base, his price goes up, right? Like, it's just it's the reality of it. And rather than sit here and be miserable for the next 3 years for a team that could win 80 to 85 games and we hope they can win a wild card series, now it's like one of those, and then also while wondering, man, I hope they can do something while we have them for the next couple of years. Now it's like, okay, we know we're only going to have them for a couple more years, and we don't know that, but let's just lock into that mentality. We know we have Francona for at least 3 years, 4 years max. I don't care what happens after 3 or 4 years. I really don't. But whatever bad happens after 3 or 4 years, that whatever happens in the next 3, better make it worth it. It better make it worth it at the end of the day.
I know it's not fair to look back in hindsight about the Dusty Baker firing, but could it have gone worse? I mean, could it have gone worse since then? Dusty Baker goes on to win a World Series with Houston, and the Reds have several managers, each one worse than the next, respectfully. And I think that Dusty, he didn't accomplish the goal. I guess the goal when you bring in Dusty Baker is to win a World Series, and that didn't happen. But damn, if that wasn't the best time to be a Reds fan. That's been the best by far, right? Over the past 20-plus years, 30 years, the best time to be a Reds fan was under Dusty Baker's managership.
You want to know my
managerial career?
My Reds memory that I have being in college, we were at the student union, and there were hundreds of students. We're all crammed in the student union, the big screen, all as a group watching the Reds get no hit. That's my Reds playoff memory that I have. Like, I don't want to be, you know what I mean? Like, it's the Phillies. I don't want that, man. I want new memories, and I'm begging. Again, the Reds get back to the playoffs later, and it's Trevor Bauer just pitching lights out and, again, barely getting a hit on the day. Oh, man, it's been painful. It's been painful.
It's been painful, but I think that even though, I mean, the Buster, we were talking about the Buster Posey home run last night in the group chat. And it's a miserable experience. It's a miserable time to look back and think of that. But to see that the Reds were so close in that moment. They were so close. Game 5 against the Giants. You win the first 2 games of that series, and you're thinking, oh, my God, this can happen. This can happen. Then the injuries happen. Then you lose Johnny. And you start to see the crack, and you see the Scott Rowland error at third base, and you start to see the crack, and then everything blows up in Game 5, and it's heartbreak. But I remember coming home from school, I think I was in 8th grade, and we got let off early. We got let off. I think they let us go home and watch the game. Mrs. Shores, shout out to Mrs. Shores, my 8th grade teacher, said, I think 15 minutes early, they're like, go, call your parents. You guys can go right now if you got a ride. So I got home. I got just in time back. I think I got back home for the 8th inning, and I watched it. And sitting there in my house, watching the Cincinnati Reds play a playoff baseball game, it matters more. It means so much more. And to get that again, to have that chance, I'm starting to believe that's possible now with Terry Francona. I do. David Bell, again, not the David Bell bashing show, won't do it. But it felt like we've reached the top of what David Bell could be. I felt like we've seen the peak of David Bell. He's been here for 6 years. Yes, 3 winning seasons. That's of note because the Reds have only had 6 under this current ownership. 3 winning seasons. But there has been no really good signs of life. There hasn't been that energy. Maybe the 2020 season could have been that, and we lost it because of COVID. Whatever. This feels like the life that just sparked up into this fan base, just like it did last season when Ellie De La Cruz came up, when Matt McClain came up, when Noel V. Marte came up, pre-steroids. That's what it feels like right now. I feel the energy, I feel the excitement, the electricity rejuvenated back into this city. Because it was gone. The lights were out. It was dark. It was sad. Everyone was out. Next season was going to be terrible. We were going to hire a manager that I thought wasn't going to have any success in the league, any history of winning. But they hire a Hall of Famer. And that's the difference.
Yep.
I want people to have the ability to see what a playoff game feels like in Cincinnati, a real one. I want to see the champagne. I want to see the videos in the clubhouse with John Sadak and Barry Larkin and Jim Day getting champagne dumped on their heads. That's what I want. And I think you can start to see it with a move like this. You don't hire Skip Schumacher and go, oh, all right, World Series. You don't. It doesn't correlate. That's no knock on Skip. He was manager of the year in Miami. And I hate that argument too. It's like, well, Skip was a bad manager. He was manager of the year and then had a horrible year this year. Did he forget how to manage? No. It's just how the teams are built. But I think this team could be built in a way that Terry Francona can get his hands on it and take us to the promised land. He's done it before. He'll do it again.
Let me ask you guys this, because David Bell's going to look worse if the Reds do take off under Francona. But here's the problem I'm going to have with that, because it's not like I hate David Bell. I don't think David Bell did a horrible job. It's just that's not what you aim for more. If I'm David Bell, I feel a certain way that, okay, Francona comes in, now you spend money. Francona comes in, now and we don't know that they're going to do that, but again, we're just assuming. If the Reds start operating at a championship level for 3 or 4 years because Francona's here, that's still not the greatest look. I mean, if you want to talk about what a good business decision is hire Skip Schumacher and still spend money on players. That's a wild concept, right? Or David Bell maybe actually spend money and give him players throughout his entire time as manager of the Reds and still spend money and you save money in that route. Now you got to pay at least, assuming $15 million a year to a manager, and now you're going to go spend money on players. And it's like, well, that's great, the aura of it all, don't get me wrong. But it is weird that, okay, we're going to spend way more on a manager than we ever have and then go spend money on players when you could have been spending money on players all along. Why does Tito need to come in to tell this organization to spend money on players? They could have done it on their own. We don't know if they're going to do it or not, but that is something I'm going to keep an eye on because that's not always fair to a David Bell. Look, he can never do this with the team. Well, let's see what weapons they give Francona as well, because that's going to change the game as far as that's concerned.
There's going to be people that point back to this at Francona. We go out and spend $100 million in free agency, and the lineup is completely overhauled, and there's only 4 of the same starters from this year or whatever the number is, and Terry Francona goes to, like, the CS or something. Everyone's going to be like, oh, we told you, David Bell stinks. Terry Francona changed everything. Well, maybe it would have been the same result with the same players. So I don't think it's fair to necessarily grade David Bell based on Francona's success. I know it's going to happen, and I know the more success he has, the more people are going to hate on David Bell. But it's going to be important to look at how the Reds pour money into this Francona team, and that's what's going to be the biggest thing. They need to pour money into this team. If you give Terry Francona the same roster we had this year and the same resources we had this year, nothing's going to change. You have to improve the way you operate top down, and this is just a start that they might be doing that, and that's why we're so excited. I don't think anyone's acting like Terry Francona is going to change everything on his own. It's just we think that maybe this is going to change something organizationally for the Reds.
And maybe it doesn't, and maybe it doesn't. Maybe it doesn't work. But that's not the point. The point is that they tried. And I know people don't like the effort thing, and it's hard to look back. It's hard to give A's for effort when you don't have success in 3 decades. I get that. And I'm the first to admit that I certainly am not going to applaud the Reds, front office because of just one move here. But this is a step in the right direction. And maybe we look back at these 4 years and say it didn't work. Maybe it's just a cursed city and nobody can break this curse. But you can't look at it like that. You got to look at it right now, in the present. And in the present, you just hired a Hall of Fame manager, a former baseball player, 4-year franchise, a guy that loves this city, and he's going to help fix the mistakes that we saw this season. The injuries killed the Reds this year, and I stand on that hill. I'll die on that hill. It was the injuries were just far too much to overcome. Saying that, there were a lot of mistakes from young guys. Mentally, there was base running errors everywhere. There was fielding errors everywhere. We have our center fielder not throwing the ball into home with a guy on third and 1 out several times on the year. Several. Terry Francona is a guy to try to fix this. And if he can't fix it, I don't know who could. This is objectively the best decision, best option available, and the Reds chose that. And you can't fault anybody else. David Bell, I know, like Jacob just said, is going to be looked back at probably not with a lot of fondness. But I do think David Bell did his best. I think he tried his best. I'd argue that David Bell wasn't given the tools for success like I think they're going to give Terry here. But David Bell, he showed up. I think he cared. People didn't like the press conferences. I'll admit they got a little tired towards the end. You're finding a reverse opposite in Terry Francona. You didn't like David Bell. We're going to go the complete opposite way. A guy who's won, a guy who doesn't put up with the silly mistakes. The famous clip of Trevor Bauer tossing a ball over the center field fence and Terry Francona. What the F is that? What is that? What are you doing? And that's what you're going to see for the next couple of years. I don't think he's going to break any record for getting tossed at games. I think he's going to be a good manager. And that's what I wanted.
All right, Justin Kinner, Jacob Tissett, Elliot Rearing with you here. This is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers. Next part of the show, too, we're going to discuss, what are the biggest signings, the biggest off-season moves, the biggest off-season headlines the Reds have made during our lifetimes. You're 22, you're 25, right, Elliot? I'm 34. So the gap's, a little in between for everybody. But this move right here, I don't know the last time the Reds made a move, they got me this jacked, this excited. And obviously everyone varies in age, so I'm curious, where does this rank up there with some of the biggest off-season moves that the Cincinnati Reds have made? So we'll get to that coming up. I know we got to pay some bills. I know we got some housekeeping items to take care of on the YouTube side, but be thinking about that during the pause in the action. By the way, for those who are tuning in right now, please hit the like button. Like. Keep liking that. We appreciate you tuning in, especially on a day like today. That would be spending the majority of the show talking college football, NFL, the Bengals. We will get to some NFL stuff to close out the show coming up in a bit. We've got to get to our week, to our picks for the week and all that fun stuff. But we'll continue on with the Terry Francona Reds discussion as we close this out. Again, more Off the Bench next. Housekeeping. We'll get to that later.
We'll get to the end after the 6 radio segments.
After the 6 radio segment.
We'll get it.
I was.
Shout out to the sponsors.
Yeah, sure. We'll get to it. We'll get to
the sponsors.
We should mention the super chats. We have people super chatting right now. If you're listening on the radio, please feel free to join our YouTube side as well. These are the greatest bunch of people you'll ever meet in your life.
That's right.
They are paying me to say that, so I'll say it. Here we go. So, Sir Boy.
By the way, we should read all of our super chats.
Yeah, I was going to
say. No, well, I can't read. I can't read Justin's. Justin put super chats that nobody can read on air.
We love Justin.
Justin, I'll read yours after the radio side. But unreal. So, Sir Boy, 199. Where are you, Bell defenders? # sit down.
You're sitting.
I didn't defend Bell. I defended the role of the manager in a. Well, no, because
Should we play the headlines music?
Yeah, if you got it in you. Do you got it in you?
What is it? You love David Bell?
I love David Bell. Sir Boy, 199 again. You don't get to backtrack now. I get to backtrack whenever I want.
That's the good thing about doing the show 10 hours a week is all we do really is backtrack.
I just want to backtrack. If I want to backtrack on a Friday from what I said on Monday, I'm going to do so. That's what I got. Justin, let's see if I can make something funny out of this. So, Justin, 499, only birthday present better than the Tito signing is the birthday cake I get later. How about that?
What else?
Love birthday cake.
What else is he going to get?
Well, I can't say the other thing.
Okay.
But thank you, Justin. We'll
Sounds
say
like a
cake.
great birthday too.
It does sound like a good birthday. Can't lie.
Good for him.
Reed, I'm just excited that the show didn't literally laugh at the proposition of the manager affecting a team because I didn't think they'd hire one that actually mattered. When you throw in the name Bruce Bochy, see why managers matter? Look at Bruce Bochy. I didn't think the Reds would get a Bruce Bochy caliber manager.
Right.
I thought it was going to be Skip Schumacher. So let me have it. I just asked for this. I don't get a lot of wins. I don't see wins as a Reds fan. I get moves like this. Let me have it.
Have you said your take on the manager? Has it been the manager has never mattered, or that as the game has changed? Because that's where I'm at. I believe the manager used to matter. I don't think it matters as much now, but I do think there are still a few managers that come in and make an impact, not just on the field, but the way they force the front office to totally shift their thinking. There's not a lot of managers out there that do that. I think Dusty Baker does that. I think Hinch is on the verge of doing that right now. And I think, obviously, Francona does that. That's where I'm at with that. I don't think managers have as much of a thumbprint on the results of games as what they used to, but there are very few that can come in and have an impact that goes beyond just the results on the field, and we're seeing that already. I think Francona getting the organization to pony up a lot of money for a manager, that just doesn't sound like Cincinnati. He's an outlier compared to what most managers are in today's baseball.
The chat saying we're copping out. Oh, yeah, we are.
Listen.
We are.
I made a parlay, and the cash out right now is at 50 cents, and I made it. I cashed it out.
That's right.
It's my money, and I get to have it back right now. I get my words back. Yeah, I agree with Justin. I think that the role of the manager is greatly overvalued by fans. I'll give my tier ranking of how a franchise should run. I think there's ownership. You have to have a really good ownership because the owners have to care. Then you have to have a good front office. You have to have a good GM, president of baseball ops. Got to have it. Then you got to have the players. You got to have the players be really good because if the players aren't good, then nothing else matters. Those three things matter so much more than in last place the manager because I don't think the manager matters as much. Saying that, there are exceptions to every rule. There are exceptions. The exception is Bruce Bochy. The exception is Dusty Baker. The exception is Terry Francona.
Oh, no.
There are exceptions to the
We have a
rule.
development in the chat.
What's that?
Would you like to read Reed's chat, or would you like me to?
Reed, you're not allowed to send that. Reed, you're not allowed to send that. If Reed says that, if Reed sends that anywhere, I am suing. He is liable. So here's what happened. I'll explain it. Everybody's
First, say what it is.
Okay.
Say the accusation.
No, I don't. I'm not going to say the accusation.
I'm a
You
bigger
wanna say
Reds
the
fan than a Bengals fan. Jesus, how much do you hate the Bengals then?
Reed Mouse in our chat says, quote, I have a screenshot from this week that says Elliott wants the next Reds manager to go 0-162 rather than win a playoff series just so he could be right that managers don't matter.
Did you or did you not say that?
I said a variation of that. And I only said it. Here's the thing. I only said it because the discourse around the manager was getting me so tired. It was just I didn't like talking about it. I didn't think Terry Francona would be a Red, okay? That's my fault. That's my bad doing. Please don't send the screenshot.
You would have rooted against Skip Schumacher.
I would have rooted against Skip
You're
Schumacher.
not rooting against Terry Francona.
Now that we have a good manager, I want to make it very clear if Skip Schumacher was the manager, I probably would have rooted against him. And I don't want to say that, but it just would have been the truth. Don't clip it. No clips.
What a show.
I mean, and it's okay to just own it. Own the backpack.
I own it. There's
And you're doing a
exceptions to
great
every
job.
rule. There's exceptions to every rule. This was an exception to the rule that I didn't think the Reds had in them.
All right.
Sorry, Fred. Fred says I'm tired. I'm a tired act.
Sorry,
Sorry, Fred.
0-162.
That's insane.
Oh,
I mean, woofa.
I was just upset about the manager stuff. That's
Who
all.
needs haters when you have fans like this?
Well, yeah. I was just in a bad place. The Reds season just ended, and I'm sad. Okay, now I'm happy. Let me have the happiness.
Good for Reed for bringing that to the forefront.
Yeah.
You know. By the way, I am curious too because Reed's not a Reds fan; he's a Cubs fan. I'm just curious does this move like? By the way, I don't know about you guys, so I tune in. Ken Carman, I'm friends with out of Cleveland. He does a radio show for the fan over there. I tuned into them today, and they're doing exactly what I expected. I mean, come on, Reds fans. Throwing a World Series parade, forgetting Tito. I mean, look at what the Guardians are doing. Tito leaves, and they're even better. I have never hated a baseball team more than the Guardians at this point. because they're doing like it's okay to just say, hey, I hate that he went to the Reds. Of all teams to go to, the Cincinnati Reds, and then I would have. But now they're doing this whole like mocking the Reds for the. So yeah, as if I needed more ammo to hate the Guardians. It's that like they're now trying to poo-poo on Terry Francona that they didn't need. Yeah, so much for that statue. I mean, my goodness, what is happening right now? I'm just curious, those who are not Reds fans who are going to try to find ways to water this down in some capacity.
We did the bit over the summer. We did the man on the street that no one cares about the Ohio Cup. The Ohio Cup might legitimately be the biggest rivalry in baseball for like the next 3 years. Terry Francona and the Reds dugout going up against the Guardians, that's going to be some real juice in a rivalry matchup. The Ohio Cup has never been more back. But yeah, Reed especially, being a Cubs fan, we told him the whole time after they brought in Craig Counsell that hiring a manager won't change anything. And then we get Terry Francona and we think it's going to change everything. So I understand why certain people could be concerned with our flip-flop. But again, as Elliot said, we're allowed to do it.
I don't want to sit up here and flip-flop. I didn't want to do it, but I have to do it
flip-flopping
now.
Anymore. We've already done it.
Because I can't be on the wrong side of this one. We're on the right side of this one.
That's right.
So that's all that matters.
The other thing, too, why are Guardians fans mad at Francona for this? Because I could see if Francona retired, left, retired, and then the Guardians fall off. Like, basically, when Dusty left Cincinnati, the Reds definitely fell off, right? But he didn't leave Cincinnati. They fired him, so it's completely different. But, like, I could see if they fell off and then, he went somewhere else, and then you're pissed at that. But, like, you're doing just fine. You're saying, like, you don't have to be disrespectful to Francona on the way out. You're doing just fine. Like, you're actually lucky. You're lucky that you lost a manager and it didn't really have an impact on you. You're lucky that you lost a leader in that organization and it didn't impact you as far as that's concerned. But throwing shade on the way out is just, it's a wild move. And like I said, have I mentioned I'm not pulling for the Guardians in the playoffs?
I think you mentioned it a couple times.
Yeah.
Go Tigers.
You mentioned free agent signings, by the way. So I was going to say, like, some of the biggest moves that you've had in your life. And to be quite honest, I don't know what Jacob's thinking over there, but we haven't had a ton. I'm just trying to look back right now.
The move I was most excited for sucked.
Yeah.
The move I was most excited for, no doubt about it, was bringing in Mike Moustakas.
Yeah.
I mean, I bought a Moose jersey over a Castellanos jersey because of what he did the years prior. He was no doubt the biggest signing of my lifetime, or at least the part of Reds fandom that I remember the most. I don't remember Griffey's signing. I mean, I remember Shin-Soo Choo playing for the Reds, but I didn't exactly get super hyped that offseason. I wasn't very entwined with the Reds. I think, sadly, it's the Moustakas signing. For me.
Real quick, before we get, because Elliot's going to list some of these off, and I'm curious. So I listed 5.
These are some of the recent ones, but I'm listing off the recent ones to be fair.
So, I'm gonna get from 2000 to now. I'm gonna give you my top 5 favorite ones, and one you mentioned already is not on mine, so I think there's going to be more on there that you have than I thought. But these are the top 5 moves the Reds have made since 2000. And the reason I say 2000 is because I was born in 89, and by the time I could actually pay attention to what actually is going on, it was about 2000. And so for me, the top moves that the Reds have made since the year 2000 will start in 2000, of course, February of 2000, when the Reds acquired Ken Griffey Jr. That was a seismic move. That was a huge move.
Yeah.
That caught all of the baseball world's attention when Ken Griffey, was acquired by the Cincinnati Reds. That was big time. That was such a great feel in the city. I know they didn't get a lot of great years out of him, but they got a couple big number years out of Ken Griffey Jr. And there was just an excitement level that just matched the Cincinnati Reds' history and expectations as far as that's concerned. The next move that the Cincinnati Reds made that caught my attention in my lifetime as a Reds fan was when Dusty Baker was named the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. I thought that was one that also grabbed the attention of baseball and the sports world, just because, again, it sent a message like, hey, we're bringing in a guy that has had success everywhere that he has went, and we want to get back on track. We have a very good core of guys coming up through the system, kind of similar to this to a certain extent. Except Dusty had to be a little bit more patient with this group. I think Tito's coming in to win now versus Dusty, who was coming in with a young core coming up and ready to attack. But I love that Dusty move. I thought that was a huge splash when that came out back in 2008 when they hired him. The next big offseason move that I thought made a splash in Reds country and around baseball was the announcement of the extension of Joey Votto. because the Reds are not known to fork over a lot of money often. And when you look at Votto's contract even to today, it's still one of the bigger contracts over the last 10 years as far as when you look at the average per year and the total amount spent. Joey Votto's extension in 2012, that 10-year, $225 million deal, that was the number 4 one, that was the number 3 one that came on my list. The fourth move that the Reds have made in the offseason that to me is at the top is honestly the acquiring of Trevor Bauer and that 3-team trade from Cleveland back in 2019. Mainly because every move that I'm listing right now, they weren't just the names that were involved and how they made the team better. It was the message. Griffey was a message to baseball that, hey, we're going to try and build around the kid, right? We're going to try and build around this star as far as that's concerned. You bring in Dusty Baker. You weren't bringing in Dusty just to be an okay team. You were going to try to compete to win the division and win a World Series. You extend Joey Votto. You didn't let one of your top stars just walk. You extended him. You kept him in Cincinnati. That sent a message around Major League Baseball. The Trevor Bauer move was huge to me. I think it's a very underrated move. I know we didn't get to see too much come out. I mean, he did win the organization's first ever Cy Young, but it was just one of those things where when the Reds got Trevor Bauer, that's when we knew, they are going all in on this. They are going to make an effort. You don't go get Trevor Bauer if you're just trying to compete for a wild card. You're trying to go for the kill. You're trying to go for the division. You had already acquired Sonny Gray. You had, obviously, Luis Castillo. Like, they had the weapons in place. They followed that up with those moves of Moustakas and Castellanos and others. But that's why I thought that Trevor Bauer move was one of the biggest as far as that goes. And that's not an off-season move. That was a trade deadline move. And then, of course, the next biggest move that the Reds have made in my lifetime was the one that they made last night. Obviously, when you look at Terry Francona being named the manager of the Cincinnati Reds. Every name I put on that list, it was a message being sent to baseball, a message sent to the division, or just a message to the fan base that, hey, this isn't just a good old fun move. Like, Yasiel Puig was a fun move. That wasn't a championship-winning move. That was just a fun move. At that time, he was one of the top players in baseball. That was a good move. It wasn't a championship move. It was just a fun one. Every name that I listed on my list here, the top 5 moves the Reds have made in my lifetime, every one of those were message sending to the fan base especially. That's what I love about every offseason or acquisition the Reds had made during that time.
Okay, so those were good moves, and I agree with you. I'll mention the Puig one because I had it pulled up here.
Okay.
So the Yasiel Puig trade was Homer Bailey. The Reds shipped away Homer Bailey, Jeter Downs, and Josiah Gray for Yasiel Puig, Alex Wood, Matt Kemp, Kyle Farmer. And I think cash. The Dodgers sent $7 million in cash to the Reds as well for all that. That was an insane trade. I remember where I was in a movie theater at Newport when I heard that news. And that was the start of like the new age of the end of that old rebuild and into that next one, right? So that was a big move. I think the other one people will talk about is the Shin-Soo Choo trade. It was a 3-team, 9-player deal. Cleveland, so the Indians at the time, they received Bauer, Albers, Brian Shaw, and Drew Stubbs. Arizona Diamondbacks received Tony Sipp, Lars Anderson, Didi Gregorius. The Reds received Jason Donald and Shin-Soo Choo. 3-team, 9-player deal. Another one people will talk about is the Reds trade for Scott Rowland. They acquired Rowland from the Blue Jays, 2009. Edwin Encarnacion, Josh Roenicke, and Zach Stewart for Scott Rowland. A 6-time Gold Glove Award winner, Scott Rowland. And then you have another trade, the Matt Latos trade. At least in my life, this was a big one. 4 players the Padres got for Latos: Yonder Alonso, Brad Boxberger, Yasmani Grandal, and Edison Volquez. Were the 4 players we got for Matt Latos, a great player. Some of the signings the Reds have had recently that arguably may or may not have worked out. Zach Duke didn't work out. Mike Moustakas, 4 years, $64 million. If there was ever something that didn't work out, it was that one. Wade Miley, 2 years, $15 million. That one did work out. I thought arguably you could have given him another year. Shogo Akiyama didn't work out. 3 years, $21 million. Nick Castellanos, 4 years, $64 million. Did work, but the 4 years obviously were not lived up to, I don't believe, because of the option. Pedro Strop, I remember the former Cub, Pedro Strop, coming to town. Sean Doolittle was a Cincinnati Red for a little bit. Colin Moran, the Pirate, 1 year, $1 million. He was not great. I think he had a 2-home run or 3-home run game. Donovan Solano was a good move. Hunter Strickland, Tommy Pham, Luke Maley, Kirk Casale, Will Myers, Luke Weaver. Luke Weaver now the closer of the Yankees, by the way. So those are just a couple. I think most of the moves the Reds have made, the big ones, have been trades. Just not a ton of free agent success on the offensive side of the baseball. Not a ton. Now this year, I'm hoping that changes because there are a couple names I want, and those are the guys. Do I think we can afford Pete Alonso? No. But
after last night, he's not leaving New York.
Correct. Would I like Pete Alonso? Sure, I'd like Pete Alonso. I'd like Anthony Santander if that's a possibility. Is it likely? Again, probably not.
Tony Tater's going to be so fired up.
Yeah.
He'd be so good here.
And there's a couple other names that you could throw around, and Teoscar Hernandez is one that I would like as well. Just a guy that could play right field every single day and give you the power that you want. I think those are the moves you're starting to look for this offseason if you're Nick Krall. Some sort of offensive bat in the outfield. I think that's the main area of concern right now. Just because, and again, this is no knock on Jake Fraley because Jake Fraley tried his best. Will Benson tried his best. It's just they didn't work. They didn't work this season. And for next year, it has to be improved.
See people throwing the name in the chat of what would certainly be a fun free agent move. Alex Bregman probably played his last game in Houston. He'll be on the free agent market, an aging player. We don't know what we have in Noelvi. Maybe have him try to learn to play the outfield, and Alex Bregman plays third base. That would talk about being committed to winning. I mean, that's a guy who's won World Series and played in how many CSs in a row? 7 until this year. So that would be pretty crazy. But again, not a move that it feels like the Reds make, but neither was Terry Francona. So who knows at this point what this team's going to be willing to do.
Yeah, and again, we were just kind of combing through some just moves through our lifetime that the Reds front office has made that just kind of felt different than others. I mean, there's moves made every year. There's little trades, big trades. I mean, Yasiel Puig's that in-between one where you felt it was a part. You never felt like they were trading for him to make him a long-term Red. It was just a part of the transaction at the time. But the list that I put out, every single one of those, it just felt like that really hit the fan base hard, as far, not hard like in a bad way, but like it got their attention as far as that's concerned. I saw Reed say, hey, none of those were championship moves. Like
technically fair.
But no, like did it result in that? No, but like every move you make should be trying to put yourself in the best position possible. I don't think every move the Red makes I don't think every move that the Red makes is that. But those were moves that you felt like were being done for a purpose. You were extending Joey Votto to build around him to hopefully bring a World Series to Cincinnati. That didn't happen. You were bringing in Dusty Baker to be your manager, hoping, to build a team under him to lead to a World Series like he led the Giants to one. I know they didn't win one, but he led them to a World Series, of course. Same thing when you went out and got Trevor Bauer. You brought in Trevor Bauer to be an ace along with the Sonny Gray and Luis Castillo to have them battle it. You did that for what? You did that to hopefully win a championship. It didn't work out. Not every move the Reds make how many times do they make a move and we're like, oh, World Series, here we come. We mock half the moves the Reds make. So, yes, those to me are championship moves. It doesn't always lead to that, or technically never has in the last 30 years, but that's the whole point of that as far as that's concerned. So, all right, this is Off the Bench presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. You keep giving me the fist. That means we're out of time, right?
Correct. In this segment, yeah.
On this segment. And what do we got coming up next? What are we going to do next?
I don't know. I think we're probably going to talk more Reds baseball, if I'd imagine. I think we're just going to keep talking until our mouths run dry, and then we'll pick some games for the last segment. I think is what we're going to have to do. But this is exciting. Let me be excited. I just want to be excited one time.
This is the most positive Reds talk we've had.
Oh, and forever.
Months.
No doubt. I mean, I'm really sorry that Elliot will not get to experience that 0-162 season that he was so badly hoping for in 2025. More Off the Bench next. All right, and we are back Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers, Chatterbox Sports on YouTube, 1410 ESPN Radio in Dayton. We keep talking about the perspective of, we've talked about the Reds going out to get, obviously, Francona. Francona, when you really think what he's risking a lot to come to Cincinnati. Right? It's not like his legacy will be shot if it doesn't work out. But at the same time, Francona is an older manager. You'd have to think that this might be his final stop, right? You might think that. So if this is your final stop, he's gambling a lot to go to Cincinnati. And it and it work out, right? Like, that's why I feel so good about it, is because, like, I feel like I have to trust his gut, that he wouldn't risk it, that he wouldn't risk going out on a negative note, that he wouldn't risk his lasting memory of managing in Major League Baseball be a joke of a run in Cincinnati. I have to believe that there was enough assurances in the back and forth between him and the Castellinis and Nick Kroll for him to feel comfortable to do this. Like, that's what I keep every time, because I'm falling for the social media trick where I get excited and then I read social media, I see the people hating on the thing, and then I'm like, well, maybe they're right. I mean, he did start to lose the clubhouse a little bit in Cleveland, but what if he doesn't have it anymore? No, I'm not doing that. I got to block out social media. I have to keep telling myself that there is no way this guy would risk the fallout or risk the perception, the final perception of his legacy being something that fails in Cincinnati. Whatever he was told, it had to be good enough for him to feel comfortable to do this, and that's why I keep hanging my hat on. At the end of the day, why do I think this is going to work? That. At the end of the day, we can't talk shop and know exactly what buttons managers push. That's the whole reason we sit here and kind of take shots at the managerial position in baseball and say we don't really know what impact it has. So we can't sit here and say, oh, yeah, man, he's a wizard with lineups. He's a wizard with pushing the right buttons. We don't know. We can't talk shop the way we do football when we talk schemes and when you know what I mean? When we talk schemes and play design, we hate Zach Taylor because we can't stand his play calling, this, that, and the other. We may rip managers' lineups, but I promise you, all managers are pretty much making lineups off very similar philosophies. There's not a whole lot of gaps in philosophies on how to put a lineup together in baseball. So I have to be positive. I have to assume that the reason he felt comfortable to come out of retirement is because whatever assurances the Reds front office gave him has him feeling pretty confident he can come here and continue doing what he did in Boston, in Cleveland, and keep it going in Cincinnati.
He put his Hall of Fame induction on hold for this. This is a respected manager that's going to go into the Hall of Fame soon. He would have gone soon, and he's stepping out of that to take a chance with the Reds to add on to the legacy. Sure, it could take away from the legacy, maybe a little bit, coming to manage the Cincinnati Reds. But I think everybody in the baseball world thinks that there's enough upside with the talent. I saw our guy Ben Verlander tweet last night that he's all the way back. He's going to predict him to win the division next year. So I think it was a risky. It's a risky move by Terry Francona, but I think it's a move that, if it works out, would cement him as one of the greatest managers to ever coach in this sport.
Yeah, no, it definitely would. And that's why I think it's such a big deal, is because we have a guy that's proven and has done it other places with similar philosophies. And I think that's the biggest thing why I didn't necessarily believe in whoever the Reds would hire, because it's such a unique job with such little support, at least in the last recent memory from outside sources like the ownership and everything. And I think at the end of the day, that's why I didn't think Francona would ever be the manager of the Reds, because I think it would have required some kind of assurance from ownership that they are going to spend on this team and they are going to improve this roster. And I didn't think they were going to give that to him. But now that he's hired, I think they did. And I think they're going to go out and be aggressive. And obviously, you can be as aggressive as you want. You need both sides to agree to a contract and to come to Cincinnati. So I think having Terry Francona taken care of this early in the offseason also helps that, because I think that position being locked in, that managerial position being locked in, and free agents knowing who they're going to play for, that's going to certainly help in the free agent push.
You guys mentioned some of the players earlier that, right now we were basing off-season moves based on how the Reds normally operate. Obviously now we're being a little bit more confident that, hey, maybe they might operate. Maybe we can raise the lid a little bit as far as some of the options that they can go at. You talked about Bregman a little bit ago, some of those names, mainly because experience, like bringing in not just guys who have played in the league for a while but have experienced success, who have experienced winning. You have a manager who's experienced that, but you have a roster full of guys that have not. That's the one thing this roster doesn't have. Hunter Green's never won anything. Nick Lodolo, Andrew Abbott, these guys haven't won anything. Ellie De La Cruz hasn't won a damn thing. That's not a shot at these guys. But when we talk about an experienced veteran being in the clubhouse to kind of show them how to do it, you have that winning manager now with obviously the guy you just hired last night, the splash around baseball, going out and getting Tito Francona. But you kind of got to get one more splash of a veteran name to come in to help do that as well. Another interesting point. So Bregman, is that the only veteran name that you could think of? Like, what are some other names to kind of piggyback of what you guys were mentioning a little bit ago?
I think Tony Santander is a guy that a lot of people want to go get, but
Teoscar Hernandez is
Teoscar
another
Hernandez
one.
Put together a great season this year in LA, home run derby champion. I think a lot of those guys are fun, but I don't necessarily know that that's who the Reds are going to be targeting. I would certainly like a big-time name at the top of the free agent market to be the guy that comes to Cincinnati, but I think the Reds have multiple holes that don't necessarily get fixed with one guy. And if you're only going to spend, X amount of money in the offseason, I don't necessarily know that the best move for the Reds is to dump over half of that or whatever into a single free agent. So I think the Reds could attack this as a holistic approach and go sign a more of the middle-level guys to fill all these holes as opposed to just shooting for the moon and taking one of those top-level guys for a big-time contract.
What about do you think, and I heard this last night on Chatterbox Reds, and those guys did a good job of the second this comes out, Nick and Trace and all those guys, and Craig and everyone, they got together real quick. They got that show up, instant reaction and everything. One thing that was mentioned last night that caught my attention, knowing that Francona, like the one thing, if you bring in a Skip Schumacher, you're hoping he's your manager for like 10 plus years, right? Yeah. You're hoping that like there's stability there when you hire a manager. There's not going to be stability with Francona now. It's a short window of time, so you have to maximize that time there. Part of maximizing that time is not just constructing the roster or going all in with the roster, but do you start a succession plan for post-Terry Francona? It's weird talking about post-Terry Francona on the day that he's hired, but one of the things that was mentioned last night was kind of a manager in waiting, almost grooming a manager in waiting type situation. Is that a situation where you do bring in, everyone's obsessed with some of the names that didn't have experience that we were talking about before? Is that a door for a Joey Votto? Is that a door for a name that maybe doesn't have experience as manager that would be groomed under Terry Francona? Or is it an experienced manager that would work alongside Terry Francona that would be the manager in waiting, if you will?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if you were going to do the manager in waiting thing, you're talking about like a Skip. That's what you're referring to. Mm-hmm. If you went that route, I think you have a commitment to maybe sticking with the same plan that you've already had. You don't change trajectory when you make that move. I think this move was a trajectory changing move. I think the current line of their path was going to stay the same, and they said, David Bell, this line is not the path we want to go on anymore. We're going to go a different way, and that's why you make a move like Terry Francona. I said yesterday that I think the Reds ownership and the front office, despite what Evan and some other people want them to think, and don't listen to the fans, I really do think after this season they are desperate to get back into our hearts a little bit. And maybe they don't care. They're the multi-hundred millionaires. They own our team. They'll do whatever they want. But I do think they were listening. They were hearing the frustration. They were seeing people not show up to the ballpark towards the end of last season. And I think you make a move like this, and I think it's a better option to get people excited. I think nothing would have really changed had you hired Skip Schumacher. Nothing would have hired if you stayed with Freddie Benavides. Nothing changes. A little bit of change, a little bit of direction, maybe a little bit of spark in the clubhouse is what they needed. I'd argue no other option would have given them the spark. I maybe an Aaron Boone would have gotten the energy back into this fan base, maybe. But even him, do you want Aaron Boone, a guy, respectfully of course, maybe a good manager, has had all the tools in the world and has never walked away with a championship. Unlimited roster, what you call it, fantasy baseball. He plays fantasy baseball in New York. And I think you could look around the league and find a bunch of managers that have the Rays effect. And maybe I don't want to poo-poo on Kevin Cash and what the Rays do, because it works. What the Rays do has objectively worked for quite some time now. They don't spend a ton of money. They make the right moves. They pick and choose when to sign their guys, and usually it pays off. Obviously, it took a hit this year. But saying all that, I think this is a manager that proves, or this is a move that proves, that the Reds front office is willing to change. They're willing to go in that different direction, and that's why I'm happy to see it.
All right, and again, continuing on with this conversation of Francona, as we sit here right now, I was texted. By the way, it's confirmed we will have Bronson Arroyo on next week's show. We're trying to narrow down today. Again, played for Francona, won a World Series with Francona, obviously former Red, so excited about that to touch base with Bronson Arroyo next week on this very show. But that's going to be pretty exciting too. But like he's more than anybody is going to be able to tell you just what type of manager the Reds are getting. We know it, but like to hear from a former player that played for him,
yeah.
I think that's going to be fun to kind of hear that.
Some other free agents. I know we talked a couple of them. I'll throw a couple names out. Juan Soto, Red. Juan Soto, Red.
No.
Okay. Cody Bellinger, he has an opt-out. Probably not. Verdugo, Red. I could actually see Verdugo coming to Cincinnati. Michael Conforto would be an interesting option.
I would be very upset about Verdugo.
Michael Conforto would be a different option. Joey Gallo. I don't think Reds fans would like Joey Gallo. Tyler O'Neill is a name that I know people have thrown out. Nick Kirby's thrown out a couple times. I like Tyler O'Neill, but can Tyler O'Neill stay healthy? Does Tyler O'Neill can give us the guarantee that he's going to play 140 baseball games? I don't know.
His dad was like Mr. Universe or something.
Really?
Bodybuilder, yeah.
Andrew McCutchen. Andrew McCutchen could come to town.
Okay.
A different option for sure.
If we could get like 2015 Andrew McCutchen, I'm in.
Should we reunite with Harrison Bader?
He was great here.
He was great. A lot of memorable moments. Adam Duvall. Sure. Those are some of the outfields. Jason Hayward, Jurickson, Profar. I don't think San Diego is going to let Profar walk.
That'd be crazy.
Michael A. Taylor. Just some names that you could see. Mitch Haniger has an opt-out. DH, if you wanted to go the DH route, JD Martinez, Eloy Jimenez has a club option. Marcell Ozuna obviously wouldn't leave, but has a club option. Vogelbach, Matt Carpenter, not gonna go for those two guys either. I think Bregman's a name that would be popular. Probably wouldn't go that route either. Justin Turner. Eugenio Suarez hit 30 home runs this year.
I heard Nick and them talk about him last night. That's an interesting name right there, too, who obviously wasn't great on the way out, but has looked solid since. So I'm not against that, reuniting there.
I think he gives you the power. I mean, he doesn't – the strikeout numbers probably don't help, but I think you're going to see a guy that hits home runs, and maybe that can help. First base, you got Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt coming off a down year for sure. Pete Alonso probably not. Rhys Hoskins has an opt-out. Anthony Rizzo, club option. Josh Bell, Rowdy Tellez. Christian Walker would be a name I would want, unless Christian Walker did he get a deal done already? I might be wrong on that one. I don't know about Christian Walker. He might have gotten a deal done at some point this season that I don't know about. But saying all that, there are names available that the Reds can go out and get to bolster this. And as we've all said today, that Terry Francona doesn't come to Cincinnati. If it was, we're just going to stand still. Good luck with the roster we have. It's not going to happen.
See, there's a part of me, too, and I think they're going to add some players in the offseason. Here's what I'm anticipating. I'm anticipating not the sexiest of names to be added in this offseason, and here's why. Because we've talked so much. You said earlier, injuries played a huge role in this. It's stuff we've talked about recently. But I do think there's kind of one of those where Francona wants to just see, okay, what do we have?
Yeah.
Like, not just on paper and all that, but, like, let's see it. Let me see what I could do with this group right off the bat. And then I think where you'll see the Reds be aggressive, where the start of the aggressiveness comes in, I honestly think it could be the start of the trade deadline next year. I think where we start to see the aggressiveness with the Reds, and again, it's all speculation. I think that they're in a tough spot with such a young roster because you don't want to give up on somebody too quick. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to move on from any of these guys too quick. But at the same time, you want to bring in guys that could play right now. And that's the game that we're going to sit back and play, and we're going to try and figure out the mindset of the front office. Hey, is this a going all in for 3-year run? Or is this trying to find that balance of maybe replacing guys slowly while trying to see what we have at the same time? I don't know. I feel like we're not going to see a major splash this offseason as far as that's concerned. Let's see what the young core does. Christian Encarnacion Strand, guys like that. Let's see what they do, because don't go spend money if you don't have to. If these guys can't produce next year right off the bat, great. But I think it's going to be the deadlines where the trade deadline where we're going to see the aggressiveness from the Reds come into play. Who knows?
It's worth noting that the young core has to be good. I mean, not all of them have to be hits, but we know what Ellie De La Cruz is, superstar. Hunter
Green
Green
have to be hits than misses.
Yes,
you got to hit on more than you miss.
The young core has to, like, you can't just go out and sign an entire roster of free agents. It's never how it works. Nobody does that.
Especially not here.
Certainly not here. You have to develop young guys, and they have to pan out. Noelvi Marte didn't work this year. Christian Encarnacion Strand didn't work this year. Again, injured, steroids. TJ Friedel didn't play a full season. Jake Fraley out for a lot of the time. Will Benson didn't work at all. There are pieces. Spencer Steer, I think, does play every day, but certainly you could improve that position if you wanted to. The young core has to hit first. They have to see it work. And then, in my opinion, then it's go time. I think you got a glimpse of it last year, and I think Matt McClain does matter maybe more than we all think. I think Matt McClain is going to be a vital part of this operation. And if Matt McClain isn't going to be healthy, if he doesn't play 125, 140 baseball games, I'm starting to be a little bit concerned about that. But saying that, have those guys work, and then you can get a couple of free agents that help bolster the lineup. The offense was terrible this year. Bad offense. Not a lot of power, not a lot of runs. But saying that, if you're able to build just a little bit next year and you're able to be just a little bit healthier, not everybody has to be healthy. I'm not asking, but I need Matt McClain back. I have to have him. Matt McClain, Noelvi has to be better, and hopefully Ellie is at shortstop and healthy like he has been the past 2 years. That's what I want. We know Spencer Steer's going to be healthy and available in left. CES is a question mark in my mind, but nonetheless, he's going to start at first base hopefully next season, and he's going to be productive at it.
I think Jonathan India I think he will be a Red next year now that Tito's here. Does that change your view on Jonathan India? The reason I say that, I think Tito can't have a super young roster. I think he needs some experienced players on there. And I know some of these guys have played a year of baseball. I'm just saying, like, Jonathan India is an experienced player, and I think he's a locker room leader. Again, it's a lot of the same talking points with him. But for me, from my gut, I feel like because of Tito, I do think Jonathan India is a guy that stays now. I don't think he's moved this offseason. Does that change your view of what the Reds, not what they should do, but what do you think they would do? Do you think that this locks him in Cincinnati, or is it still up in the air to you?
I really went the exact opposite way.
Really?
I think that it's more likely they trade him. And Kirby just put it in the chat, potentially trading Spencer Steer as well. I think a lot of that stuff is I think, trading Nick Lodolo. I think trading a lot of these guys that you didn't think about trading before is more on the table now.
So it makes them more vulnerable to move.
I think so, because I think you are pushing that window open by hiring Terry Francona. If it's open this much, you are pulling it open. And if you're going to do that, if you're going to try to inject this team with big-time signings or anything, then I think you're going to go out and make some trades as well, because Elliot just went over the free agents. It's not a phenomenal free agent class. If we really want to make this lineup great, it's going to require trades. It's going to require to go out and get some guys that have done it elsewhere, proven it elsewhere, and those are the guys that are going to be able to help this team in 2025 right away. Obviously, free agents would be nice where you don't have to give anything up, but I think trading some of the guys in the farm and I think trading some of the guys in the rotation would be great. The guy I talked about at the deadline that I wanted to trade this year was Andrew Abbott. That's the first name on my list that I would like to trade, but if you're comparing offers of him and Nick Lodolo and you're getting a massive return for Lodolo, I'm not exactly married to him. He can't show any kind of consistency pitching on the mound. He's injured every single year, and that's not a guy that I want to be relying on down a playoff stretch, because we've seen at the back half of every year that a lot of these guys are falling off. And I think we have the pitchers in our organization right now that we can trade some of our major league talent and still have a phenomenal rotation. And I think it's the same way with the middle infield and Jonathan India and a lot of these guys. I think trading these players to get more proven assets than just rolling the dice on free agents is something that I would expect the Reds to do at this point.
So when you say trade, because in my head, conditioned by the Reds, trading guys means prospects.
No.
That's not what you're saying.
No.
You're saying, because some people in here are like, why would you get rid of Lodolo? Lodolo would be packaged to get a player that would make an impact right away. So
I'm talking about trading for like a starting outfielder.
In my head, I'm just conditioned to trades for prospects, and I'm like, I'm so tired of trades for prospects at this point. But if you're talking, if everyone's up for grabs outside of the usual suspects of untouchable,
Tyler Stevenson, Hunter Green, Ellie De La Cruz.
Everyone else for a game?
I'll say Matt McClain. Everyone else, I would say, at least pick up the phone. Why not?
Fair enough. All right, well, that wraps it up on the radio.
Was that 6?
Side.
That was the quickest 6 we've ever done.
We didn't do the ads and all that stuff. So that.
Well, we got to do that next. We'll do that next.
We got plenty. Yeah, we still got.
By the way, did you watch any of that game last night? The Brewers Mets game.
I did not.
Great.
Jesse Winker sliding home and breaking his helmet, slamming it on the ground. I like that.
I love Jesse Winker.
I love Jesse Winker.
I love Jesse Winker.
I know Evan in the chat. I don't think he likes Jesse Winker, but I love Jesse Winker.
Why don't we like Jesse Winker?
I think, he didn't like Jesse because the fan base wanted to keep him and he wanted to trade him away. I like Jesse because he likes Cincinnati.
When opening day, he was in the outfield. I mean, he spent the entire time just talking with the fans in the outfield or whatever on opening day. Like that. coming in, it was his first time back in Cincinnati since then. He just spent the whole time in the outfield. He kept walking to the wall, signing stuff for players. People were handing him the phone because where we sat for opening day was a couple rows up. People were handing him his phone, and he was just doing selfies with everybody the entire time. So, but that's cool. All right, that wraps it up on the radio side. Until next week, this has been Off the Bench, presented. My show is up next. You get 3 more hours of Kinner in Dayton.
6 hours of Kinner.
And then even more after that because I'll be calling high school football.
9 hours of Kinner.
Yep, 9 hours of Kinner.
How about that? Go Kinner,
Love
go.
it. Go Kinner. That's not how Mouse Cop says it, but yeah, similar. It's similar. But all right, that wraps it up on the radio side. Until next week, this has been Off the Bench, presented by United Dairy Farmers. They did it. They got Francona. I don't get it.
All right. It's time for ads. I know they're late, cut me some slack, but we're getting to them. The Bengals report, which I think will probably be coming up here shortly, is proudly sponsored by Encore Technologies. At Encore Technologies, we deliver a cutting-edge IT solution for a data-driven world, for mobile computing and for mobile computing and desktop support to advanced data center solutions. We help businesses enhance efficiency and
productivity.
That's right, Elliot. Visit Encore.tech, where your path to innovation begins here. Pawnee water, best tasting water in the world. Whoa.
Woo!
Phenomenal.
One
It's
more
the best
time.
water in the world.
Nice.
Here you go.
Oh, that got ugly at the end.
Oh! Out of frame, though. It was out of
There we go.
frame.
It was out of frame. But you see that. You see those hands. And you can only catch this bottle like that. It's the best. It's the most catchable bottle of water because it has no rocks. That natural limestone filtration, it's the smoothest water in the world. The only ingredient is water. PawneeWater.com. Make sure you get yourself some of your own. It's the best. Superior hydration. Ain't that right, Elliot?
That's right.
That's right. Game time.
Game time.
Game time.
Game time.
I love game time. I love going to games. Going to games is the best. Reds games are going to be fun again now that we have TERRY FRANCONA, and you can get all those tickets on Game Time. Game Time has a new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. Super deals are phenomenal. You can get tickets for this weekend's divisional matchup, Bengals and Ravens, for cheaper than anywhere, under $200. Super deals are the best. They show you that you're getting a good bang for your buck. They rate every single ticket on the app to show you the best deals available, and you can customize your spot to see exactly where you're sitting before you buy the ticket. 360-degree views show you exactly the view you're going to get, so there's no surprises when you get to the stadium. Toggling the all-in price feature will show you the total up front, so there's no surprises at checkout. And Game Time will credit you with 110% of the difference if you find a cheaper ticket elsewhere with the lowest price guarantee. Game Time's ticket coverage will also have your purchase covered with the most flexible service policy in the ticketing industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code OTB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code OTB for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Hey, Elliot.
Hey,
What time is it?
game time.
That's right. It sure is Game Time. Make sure you use Game Time when buying your tickets.
Okay.
Any other housekeeping?
So-
Last night,
We
we were at Champions.
Champions Grill.
That's right.
We gave away Bengals tickets. Bengals tickets were given away. Thank you all to watching on the stream. If you missed it, go check it out right now. It's still live up there on if you go to our YouTube channel, Chatterbox Sports, and go to the live tab, you still can go watch that if you wanted to.
That's right.
If you don't, we have a Bengals show on Sunday, and that will be all day long. It'll be with Jacob Tissett.
That's right.
For at least the first half. We go live at the start of the Bengals game, and we're live until the end of the Bengals game, all the way until probably an hour after, 30 to an hour after, depending on, I guess, if they win or lose.
That's right.
It would depend if they win or lose. But you will see Jacob Tissett and Craig
That's right. Postgame.
Sandlin on Sunday. So that is what it will be. So tune in for that. Other housekeeping news. Reed's doing something where if you want to like the show, you can like it. But I'm going to tell you right now, So if you want to like the stream, go ahead and like the stream right now.
We would appreciate it.
And Reed will drop a screenshot that I had out of frustration. But I'm going to tell you right now, if this screenshot's posted, I can't text Reed anymore because all my screenshots just get he just tweets all my
We're at
texts.
91, by the way.
Huh?
We're at 91, by the way.
91
We're nine
likes?
away. 9 away from the friendship of you two just deteriorating away.
So 9 more likes, and then Reed will post a screenshot of my personal text that I sent our group chat, which was supposed to be the trust tree. But if they don't want to be a trust tree about it, then my text will be censored from now on. I will censor all my texts. In fact, I might just write letters.
You should keep texting, but censor the sensitive information.
Yeah, correct. That's what I'll do. I'll write in like stars. I'll put stars on
It's
it.
like 3 lines of stars when the Reds do something.
Exactly. So if you want to like the stream, go ahead and do that, and Reed will show you an embarrassing text that I sent him. Or you can. No, I won't say that.
We're down to 89 likes.
That's sad.
They're disliking the stream.
I'm
is
sad.
happening?
They're disliking the stream.
Good. They should, because they have integrity. I'm glad to see the chat has integrity today. Thank you again. We had a big show today, so appreciate you all for tuning in. See how much Reds baseball means to the city? Do we see how much it means? All they have to do is go out and win one time. Just once. I don't ask for a lot. One World Series, and we'll call it a day. One World Series and nothing else matters.
I'd tell you what, Francona's legacy is pretty damn good already, but you bring a World Series to Cincinnati.
Oh, yeah.
After 30-plus years, holy smokes. Like, that's what it's about. Like, easily, he could have gone to New York. He can go wherever he wants. But it's like sometimes achieving something in a market like Cincinnati, it's a bigger deal. Like, you go to New York, it's another, I mean, you're going to add that to your resume. That's great. But, like, you do it in Cincinnati, that's something special right there.
Yeah.
So,
I think it means more. I do. People make the joke that is Cincinnati a baseball town. I think it is. I do. I think a parade for a Reds World Series would be incredible. It would be one of the best things I've ever experienced in my entire life. Nate, nobody. By the way,
You're
now
in a bad
everybody's
spot now.
So now everybody's talking about exposing all my texts. If anybody exposes my text, you will not get another text from me. That's a promise. Anybody who exposes a text, and that's fine. You can do that option, but you will not receive text anymore. I will be strictly letters by pigeon. I will get a pigeon, and I will write letters, and I will shove it in its butt, and it will fly to you, and it will poop it back out. I think that's how the carrier pigeons work, right?
I don't.
You don't think that's how it works?
I think that's how they work.
All right. Well,
I think PETA is going to be lined up outside this door here pretty quickly.
I think
Assaulting animals like that.
Wow, we have breaking news.
We have breaking news
We have
already?
breaking news. Brian B. just said he will become a paying member of Chatterbox if the Reds win a World Series.
Whoa.
I never thought the day would come.
Whoa.
That's big time.
All right, Brian. That's a promise. That's a promise.
We're going to hold you to it.
That's a promise, Brian. So, all right. Elliot, give the chat your numbers so we can text you. Blackmore, you would be the last person I would give my phone number to. I might give it to Fetters. I think Sirboy has it. Evan has it. Who else has it? Mouse Cop, I think, has it.
Mouse Cop's putting it in the chat, so.
No, that's not my. No, that's not my. That's not my number.
Okay.
That's not my number. Mouse Cop wouldn't do that to me, or else I'd expose him. Elliot, I can be trusted. Elliot, stop texting me pictures. Okay, all right. That's enough, Elliot. That's enough Elliot text talk. But here's the thing: the Cincinnati Bengals play a game, and I hate to change the subject, but the Cincinnati Bengals play a game on Sunday. Jacob sent me a text.
I think it was sad text.
Well, it wasn't a sad text.
I think it is, if we're talking about this. It's a regular season football game and a manager hiring. It's a sad text.
It's a sad text,
It's real.
but it's real. If the Bengals go out and beat the Ravens on
convincingly.
Sunday, convincingly,
It's a good win.
and the Reds hire Terry Francona, this is a top
5?
10. I think 5 is crazy. Top 10 sports week.
Definitely 10.
Can't be top 5.
It's definitely top 10.
Top 15 maybe.
The best Reds memory of my lifetime is a home run derby.
Yeah. There's no doubt about that. That's unfortunate. The Jay Bruce home run, then the 2 AFC Championship game appearances, Super Bowl appearance.
Guy in a Browns jersey just walked by the way.
Really?
I think it's my friend.
What was his name?
I don't know, but we look
What
like we should be
jersey
friends.
was it?
I couldn't see. It was just really quick.
But yeah, okay. So that's I think if the Bengals are able to get it done against the Ravens on Sunday, I think we're gonna have a hell of a week here.
Yeah.
2 and 3. I know. Listen, 2 and 3 is not great, but 2 and 3 with a win over the Ravens like that, with your offense humming like it is right now. Ooh.
I don't care about records right now. I don't know why. I just don't. You are what your record says you are, but I feel like not this season, right? Like
it's a crazy. It's a crazier season.
There are
than
really
normal,
good
I feel like.
records, and there's teams with really good records that I'm not sold on, and then there's bad teams or bad records that I'm like, yeah, I'll take the Bengals over the Steelers any day.
Yeah.
And I don't like your team, right? Like I'll take the Bengals over the Steelers any day, and that's 1-3 versus 3-1. Like that's why I'm like, for right now, I'm out on records. But to your point, like there's just something that will feel more comforting seeing 2-3 considering the 0-3 start versus a 1-4 start to the season. So. But,
Not to get back to how much a championship would mean to the city, but every time we get down on the Bengals, the 0-2 starts, this year's 0-3 start, I just think back to how much better my life would be if we would have just beaten the Rams. Because none of it would matter. I'd have a ring, and it'd be cool. And it'd be like, hey, we won a Super Bowl. Who cares? 0-3? Yeah, let's go 10. Who cares? We won a Super Bowl. And I think if the Reds do it, it's going to be a very, very similar feeling.
When the Rams beat the Bengals that Super Bowl year, I was with friends. I'd been drinking. Bengals fans were just giving me shit the entire day. And I changed my profile picture to the Rams celebrating the Super Bowl. I got death threats. I literally got called every name you can imagine. I was like, I don't really take any of these, but it was the most insane thing I'd ever experienced. I would never do that again. That was one of the wildest things I'd ever experienced. It was just a little troll job. Yeah, y'all didn't take that too well, so I won't do that again.
Football fans, they're crazy. We're a crazy bunch.
That was the most pain I've ever been in my life.
Probably.
After that game.
That one hurt. That one hurt a lot because it felt like the Bengals dominated that game for a large majority of it.
Yeah.
We have an update. Mike Petragalia says that Trey Hendrickson, B.J. Hill, Miles Murphy, McKinley Jackson, they all dressed for Friday Bengals stretch.
No Mike Hilton.
Had a practice, but there's no Mike Hilton and there's no Sheldon Rankins.
Yeah. Still big additions.
today.
Big additions for the Bengals defense if those guys that are practicing can play. But Mike Hilton would be a massive loss. He's been able to be a big-time piece in this Bengals defense when they've been able to stop Derrick Henry in his time in Tennessee, blitzing him off the edge. He's one of the best blitzing slot corners in the entire league. So losing Mike Hilton for this game, which certainly looks that way, not practicing on a Friday when you play on Sunday at 1, not optimistic. But getting all those guys, or most of those guys, back, B.J. Hill, maybe even Miles Murphy and McKinley Jackson in this game, having those bodies to run through the D-line is going to be huge for the Bengals. And it's going to give them a shot, I think.
You guys, that Thursday night game, Thursday night football, more times than not, is usually just bad football. I don't know why. The matchups, usually when the schedule comes out in the offseason, the matchups on Thursday night usually aren't bad in July. But for whatever reason, I don't know why it always seems to be that way, but those Thursday night matchups always seem just to be horrible matchups. I was intrigued by this one just because, still trying to figure out the vibe of Baker and Tampa, even though he's had a successful playoff season with a playoff win. And they're still not doubters, but are like just trying to figure out who the hell he is, right? Like, he was fantastic. Well, more so in the first half than the second half, but that game was unbelievable. That game was Kirk Cousins, the Falcons. I mean, that's the team that you guys were hyping up coming in.
Yep.
I mean, it was wild.
It's the second time he's done that this season. A game-winning drive under 2 minutes, and he just, like, nothing. It's insanity. There was the joke of primetime Kirk Cousins, and now it's primetime Kirk Cousins still, but it's for a different reason.
He's good.
You put him in primetime, and this guy's the best quarterback I've ever seen. And he was out there, what was he, swag surfing too?
Yeah, well, the surfing and the swag.
Okay.
Is what he said. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Duh. That's what it's called, right?
Listen, good for Kirk Cousins, good for the Falcons. That team is fun, man. Drake London is so good.
They're good, man.
I will say, I bet on the Falcons when Darnell Mooney dropped that pass. I don't know if you saw that. It was third and 7. Kirk extended the play, threw it wide open. I'm saying he was so wide open.
Booty butt naked.
He was so wide open that nobody was within, I think, 50 yards of him.
Yeah.
He squatted right there. He squatted on the field, and it hit his chest. It bounced off of his chest, and it went to the ground. It was one of the worst drops I've ever seen. Luckily, Kirk Cousins was able to get through that, and they were able to win that game. But, oh, my God.
Kirk, 500
yards.
That's just insane. He put together a great showing, and I know a lot of people were worried about his Achilles after week 1. It looked like he wasn't pushing off that back foot and everything, but looks just fine to me. Kyle Pitts looked pretty good last night, over 50 yards receiving. Drake London put together a hell of a game, and Darnell Mooney's kind of found a role as their wide receiver too. I'm really excited about the Falcons, feeling good about that defense. Jesse Bates seems to force a turnover every single week. Kirk Cousins didn't throw one pass last night. Not one pass by Kirk Cousins last night ahead on the scoreboard. He's the first QB in NFL history to throw for 500 yards and lead his team to a win without throwing a pass while leading. Pretty crazy.
I saw a tweet. Shout out to Nate for sending me this. John Boy tweeted this. No free ads to anybody else. He at 11:45, so this was 5 minutes ago. He tweeted this out. A picture got released of the Brewers having to wheel out the champagne from the clubhouse.
Nice.
Oh no! Oh
That's
no,
so
Milwaukee!
good.
No champagne for you. So close.
Sorry, Frankie.
So close. So close. Every year they're so close and they never win anything. But good luck.
cute.
Maybe next year. Next year's the year, Milwaukee.
Council would have won that series.
Oh yeah, he would have. He would have won it.
Managerial showdown between
That's right.
Council and Francona next year. Look out. So, nonetheless, I know we only have about 9 minutes. I want to throw out a couple picks heading into the weekend.
Yeah.
Sure.
All right, we could do a couple. Let me make sure I pulled up what I sent you guys today. We'll just do them in that order. Did I send you picks?
Did you send us picks?
I didn't see picks, but I can pick.
We can just pick and just call it a day. I don't think you sent us anything, did you?
Yeah, who the hell did I email? I'm
Maybe you
really
did send it to
confused.
us.
I must not
Maybe
have.
we're losers. Bad employees.
Let me check my email right now.
No, it's not showing up in my sent box.
Blackmore, yes. There will be boxed lunch today coming up
Yeah, you
about
did.
12:30.
Yeah, you did.
12:15, 12:30. So stick around. We'll definitely box lunch for you today. I actually had an idea for a boxed lunch that we should do. I saw on the old TikTok yesterday. It was an hour-long video. I just saw clips of it, but it was an hour-long video posted on YouTube. It was 5 guys sitting in a room. One would just name a player, and then for 10 minutes they would talk about that player, and then someone else would name a player.
Okay.
And they would just talk about the player.
Okay.
So I know it's Friday. We always play Quiplash on Fridays. We'll play the games today, but if I can figure it out. But I think that's a good idea for
Okay, I
sometime
like
in the
that.
future.
I like that. We can play the sit around name a player game. Everybody, when we talk about baseball, you just throw out obscure
That's
baseball
right.
player. That's the best game in the
Yeah,
world.
that's right.
So let me get to the NFL spreads here. Kenner did send an email.
I
did
did.
find
I
it.
see him. I was like
Look
confused.
at
Yeah.
So here we go. The first game, the Bills and the Texans. It is Houston -1 at home, over under 47. Houston -1 at home against the Buffalo Bills. Now, normally I would take the Houston Texans, but I think it's a revenge game for Josh Allen and the Bills. I think they're going to win this game outright.
I took the Bills yesterday when they were -1.
Really?
So we picked this game on Tom's show, and the Bills were favored by 1. I picked the Bills. I think I'm going to stick with it. I'm going to stick with Buffalo. I think Josh Allen gets it done. There's no way that offense looks that poor back-to-back weeks.
Yeah, I think the reason I'm going to lean with the Texans, but I'm hesitant on it only because the Bills looked so bad last week that it's hard to imagine Josh Allen having a bad performance in back-to-back weeks, right? And we talked over the week about the perception of Joe Burrow, and Joe Burrow basically coming out and saying, "Hey, I have to be damn near perfect for us to win." Well, that's the reality for Josh Allen and the Bills. He has to be damn near perfect for the Bills to win because he doesn't have weapons. He has a defense that gets some situational stops, unlike the Bengals. So the reason Joe Burrow has to be perfect is because there's no confidence that he can get stops from his defense. The Bills get those stops, but the Bills aren't guaranteed to score in every possession because of the lack of weapons. I don't know. I'm still going to roll with the Texans. I've been high on the Texans since last season, all off season coming into this year. They didn't look. They got beat up last week, and then they edged out a win against, of course, the Jaguars. But I'm going to roll with the Texans in this one, but it's going to be close. Josh Allen versus C.J. Stroud. It's a fun QB matchup, no doubt.
Next game, Saints versus the Chiefs. The Saints and the Chiefs. So it is in Kansas City, and the spread, if I can find it, is 5.5 for Kansas City. Worth noting, 14-3. I think 15-3. Sorry, 15-3. Teams underdogs of 5.5 points or more against the spread this season.
It is a system.
15-3. So 5.5 point spread. I'm gonna go with the Saints just because I think they shouldn't even be in this game. Doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. Pick.
I'm going with the Saints because they're 4-0. The Chiefs are 4-0. And they've needed every weapon imaginable to edge out wins in every single one of those victories. And he literally doesn't have weapons right now. Now, again, this is the trap that everyone fell into during the Tom Brady, Bill Belichick era in New England. There was always a reason to pick against the Patriots. There was always something that made you feel like, oh, that's not going to be their week, and then they made you look foolish. I think that's the Chiefs still in this situation, but I'm rolling with the Saints money line. I think that the Saints actually, I think the Chiefs struggle. I think the Chiefs look bad this weekend. I still don't. I think they've done a good job navigating through coming off back-to-back Super Bowl championships. I think they've done a good job of navigating through the roster or the offense not being as explosive as what we expected. But man, oh man, unless Travis Kelce all of a sudden just decides he wants to be a football player instead of a celebrity tag-along, I'm picking the Saints in this one. I have no faith in the Chiefs at this point, not because of Patrick Mahomes, but he has nothing. They literally have nothing at this point.
Yeah, I'm definitely going
Chiefs. Poor Chiefs.
Definitely going with the Chiefs. Yeah, 5.5-point favorite at home. I'm all over the Chiefs here. 80% of people are on the Saints. 85% of the money's on the Saints. Everyone loves the Saints in this game. Patrick Mahomes is going to remind everyone why you don't bet against him. And
that's what I'm afraid of.
Yeah, this spread opened at 8, and it's at 5.5 now. So I'm definitely going to take the Chiefs.
All right, next matchup we have listed here, Cowboys versus the Steelers. Jacob told me this spread, and I didn't believe it.
Bonkers.
And I still don't really believe it. It's Sunday Night Football.
Bonkers.
-2.5 are the Pittsburgh Steelers at home. -2.5 are the 3-1 Pittsburgh Steelers at home. I'm going to take the Cowboys. I mean, it's plus money. I think the Cowboys are a better football team. I think they've got a better quarterback. I think they've got better wide receivers. I think they've got a better tight end. I think the defense is where they lose, but saying that, I'm going to still take the Dallas Cowboys on the road here in Pittsburgh. 2-3 Cowboys team would be wild.
The Pittsburgh Steelers are 27-8 in home primetime games under Mike Tomlin. I'm taking the Steelers as 2.5-point favorites in this one against the Cowboys.
I like Dallas in this one. Like I said, I'm still not sold on Justin Fields. I know he looked solid last week. I know you're higher on him than I am. It's very similar to the Chiefs, where I just feel like I'm going to get bit in the behind for betting against the Steelers in this situation. But I just think the Cowboys are a better team, and the Cowboys have looked a little up and down to start the season, no doubt. But again, can Justin Fields and that offense keep up with the offense of the Dallas Cowboys? But the neutralizing point there is how good the Steelers' defense is. So this is going to be a typical Steelers game. It's going to be ugly. It's going to come down to that final quarter, no doubt. But I'm still going to roll with the Cowboys just because I think they're a better team. But you got to give respect to the Steelers' defense, no doubt. The Steelers' run game, too. Like, they have to find something to complement Fields just a little better. Like, there has to be a little bit more balance there. It's just not there. But I'm going to roll with the Cowboys in this one.
Next up, we have the Browns versus the Commanders. Now, it is worth noting Commanders have the most money on them this week than any other team in the NFL. But they are 3.5-point favorites at home against the Brownies. I'm going to take the Brownies because of the public money thing.
I'm not.
I ride the system.
I'm not. I'm going to take the Commanders here. I think the Commanders are a really, really good football team, and I'm just going to pray that it goes below 3.5 before Sunday, but I'm going to take the Commanders either way. I just don't believe in this Browns offense being able to move the ball, and the Browns defense is not playing as good as they should be right now with the guys on that roster, and Jaden Daniels is hotter than anyone. So I'm going to take the Commanders to take care of business yet again.
So I did one of those tricks just because the Browns are making me miserable. I put $150 on the Commanders to win.
Nice.
On Sunday.
Nice.
I'm trying to buy my happiness is basically what I'm doing. Because if the Commanders win, I win, like I think it's like $80 or no, it's $90 or something like that. Okay, cool. It's not a big payout, but at least I'll win $90. I'll win a bet if the Commanders win. If the Browns win, I may be out the 150, but hey, you know what? Don't care.
Yeah.
My Browns get a win. No, look, I feel a little better watching Deshaun look the way he did last Sunday, but my gosh, receivers have to pull this in. Problem is for the Browns, like I said, by the time they get David Njoku back, Nick Chubb's back at practice, but it'll be a couple weeks before he actually gets thrown out into a game. And then when he's out into a game, how long before he returns to form? That could be another 2 weeks. They don't have weeks left. They're 1-3, and they have one of the toughest schedules remaining. I like the Commanders' offense, but their defense is going to allow the Browns, if this was going to be a week for them to put up more than 20 points for the first time in 4 games, this would be it. I think it's going to be closer than people think. I want to go with the Browns, but I picked Commanders' money line, and by putting a lot of money on it, just hoping that I'll make some money off of this game. But I think Cleveland's more desperate. They have the weapons to attack a rookie quarterback. They have the corners. They have the pass rushers. They just haven't been elite to start the season. If there was a game for the defense to come around, it has to be this one. If they want to make a rookie quarterback's life hell, they have the tools to do it. Not a lot of teams that they have faced have been able to do that. The Browns have the tools to do it. It's just they haven't been doing it 4 weeks in. But I got to go with the Commanders. I'm just not confident in the Browns right now, but they have the tools to make Jaden Daniels' life miserable.
Yeah.
I just don't have faith that they're going to do it because they haven't done it 4 weeks in.
Ravens versus the Bengals, the final game we are picking today. 2.5-point favorites are the Baltimore Ravens on the road in Cincinnati. against the Bengals. Bengals.
Yeah. I mean, Bengals. Yeah. Bengals
I can't sit up here and say I'm going to take the Ravens. I don't bet the Ravens.
What does it sound like? What do bat rappers sound like? That's right. We're going to stomp them out.
I picked against my team, so it's not like I'm just being a homer and then hating on your team. But I'm rolling with Baltimore, and so I see that the defense looked a little better against the Panthers, but that's because it's the Panthers, right? But they got embarrassed by the Commanders. They do have guys that are back to kind of give a little depth on that line. That helps. But it's Derrick Henry / Lamar Jackson in this one. I think it can get ugly, but it's just a matter of can the Bengals attack the passing defense of the Ravens, which statistically not a very good passing defense, but they made Josh Allen look kind of silly, but Josh Allen doesn't have the weapons that Joe Burrow does. I'm still going to roll with the Ravens in this one just because I think right now their weapons are set up perfectly to attack the weaknesses of the Cincinnati Bengals. I'll take Ravens money line in this one. And there you go.
All right.
Is that it?
Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Look at that.
Reds talk October 4th. October 4th, the Reds talk doesn't stop, Kenner. And it's not going to stop next week either.
And look at that, 96 likes. We ended with 96 likes.
Oh, we didn't get to 100?
So
what a shame.
Close. So close.
Let's see if we can get a late push. 100 likes, real quick. We'll wait 1 minute and see if we can get 100 likes.
And what happens?
Didn't want this.
Yeah, I thought you did.
I don't, but I'm a man of the people, and if they want 100 likes.
We're at 97.
If you wouldn't have coerced them to dislike it, we would have already been there.
Yeah, because we were minus 2
I didn't
likes
coerce
at
them
one
to
point.
dislike it. I didn't coerce them to
did?
dislike
Well,
it.
we're at 99.
I said like the stream. I never once said dislike.
We're at 99.
We're at 99,
the
and
show.
we are at 102. We're at 102, Reed. We're at 102, Reed.
Trip Didge. What if we give you a cop-out? What if on...
Everett says, take off your shirt, Elliot. Sell yourself.
What if
Those
on
are the pictures.
Box Lunch... what if on Box Lunch we find something you could do to not have that leaked?
No, he's going to do whatever he wants. All right, that's it. Have a good show. Have a pleasant day, everybody. This has been Off the Bench. Justin Kinner, Elliot Rearing, Jacob Tissett, and Terry Francona.
That's right. Thanks, Terry.
Thanks, Terry.
Put it in reverse, Terry.